What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
5 Shish. Chapter 101. The Other Side of the Flower-Killing Stone. The Treasure Mirror, the Stone of the Town. The Kingdom of God that shocked everyone. Following the stone in Tamamo Front's hand, it flew into the air. A strong, ominous aura quietly permeated the entire arena. The strange and unpredictable incantations on the black stone slowly circulated, and faintly, a dark and viscous liquid flowed out. At this moment, the stone seemed to have turned into a yin spring. A steady stream of cold air flows out of it. It seems that the next moment, it will open the door to the world of the dead and extradite all living beings to the other side. In the audience, everyone unconsciously slowed down their breathing. Nami said blankly, "Then, what is that?" The cigarette that Sanji was smoking was burning to the butt and he didn't notice it. It seems, is the key to hell. Zoro's hand has also subconsciously grasped the handle of the knife, and said solemnly, "This thing makes me feel very bad." Just looking at the black stone, he already felt the approach of death. It seems that any matter, as long as it is related to it, will be entangled by endless curses. Below, the blood beast seemed to sense this deep strangeness. Its body is low, close to the ground, revealing a ferocious sharp tooth. Even the muscles were tensed a bit, full of restlessness. In the distance, the 9 golden tails of 003 swayed in the air, creating waves of ripples. Yu Zhao raised his arm in front of him, pressed it down lightly, and spit out his red lips, "Eternal world cracking great killing world." A string of obscure incantations came out of her mouth. Suddenly, the pitch-black stone in midair shook violently. A viscous black textured liquid drips slowly. Tick tick tick. On the ground, unconsciously, a layer of black unknown energy has been covered. An extremely cold atmosphere swept the entire arena. What is even more terrifying is that on these black energies, unknown incantation symbols appeared one after another. There is a chilling curse poison in these incantations. If you touch it, you will die. If you touch it, you will die. The blood beast raised its claws and kept retreating, trying to avoid these black energies. But no matter what, the entire arena has been covered. In just a few breaths, black spell energy wrapped around its limbs. Roar. The blood beast exerted force on its limbs and kept shaking, and the majestic blood energy within its body rose up, trying to break free and expel these unknown energies. But these pitch-black incantations are like maggots on the tarsus, clinging to its body constantly. Some incantations are even directly like tattoos, embedded in the fur and skin of the blood beast. Roar. The blood beast roared, and the blood energy on its body began to be contaminated by the curse poison and turned black. The corrosiveness of these curse poisons is terrifying, and once they get on it, they can't be shaken off. And it has a very strong lethality. In other words, the structure of the blood beast is peculiar, and its whole body is constructed from the power of slaughter. Changed to a normal creature, I am afraid that the instant death of the curse poison has already been triggered. But even so, it suffered a lot of restrictions, as if it was covered with a layer of shackles. In the audience, everyone couldn't help but look at Lu Chen. What kind of power is that? 99. This thing makes them horrified. Lu Chen explained. This is the power of the other side flower, the killing stone. According to legend, after Tamamo May died, he turned into a stone, and this stone was called the killing stone. It contains a very terrifying curse poison power, and it can even connect to the world of the dead. Of course, this golden-haired, white-faced Yu Zhao front in the field now has more than one identity. A conversation with Lancer while inside Sakura mentions that she caused the downfall of 5 dynasties. Its identity is presumed to include at least Daji, Tamazao Zen, and even Mrs. Wang. Even these disasters that destroyed an entire dynasty were not her entire identity. Its divine personality is a pseudo-deification of the sun, and it also represents the awkward Amaterasu god tier. So, Tamazao before is just one of her incarnations. At the same time, this is also her current identity on the bright side. On the arena, Yu Zhao shook the jade fan gently in front of him, his eyes drooping slightly. The curse poison can't kill you, it seems that you are not a pure creature. Any creature, even a ghost. As long as you touch her killing stone curse poison, you will be dragged into the abyss by the endless curse. And this blood beast is obviously not in this list. It is not a living being at all, but a weapon created by a certain existence for killing. Roar. 35. The blood beast suddenly burst out with a fearful force. The pitch-black curse imprint was dragged abruptly, and flew towards the direction in front of Tamamo. Layers of blackened blood energy surrounded its body, forming a circle of energy like a halo. Scarlet blood combined with deep black. Like a group of crimson-red lotuses ignited in the abyss of hell. Humph. Dot. A humming sounded in the air. Suddenly, the 9 fox tails rose against the storm and spread out in midair. One of them was entwined with golden brilliance, and it was photographed with a bang. Boom. The ground seemed to tremble. Under the pressure of the irresistible Piran force, the magnificent blood beast was shot directly into the ground. The boulders flew up. There was only a bottomless pit left in place, and there was a faint trace of blood rising from the pit. At this time, Tamamo before got up from her airbed and slowly floated into the air. The white gauze robe hangs down naturally, the jade fan covers the face, and the pale golden pupils are full of indifference. This is the look of God. Ignore everything in the world, as if everything doesn't need to be in my heart. The vast god Wea fell, covering the entire arena. On the ground, all the poisonous powers of the killing petrification were swept away. Even the dust was swept away. Although I am not good at fighting, I am not something that can be provocative. In the indifferent tone, the previous charm is no longer seen, only the majesty belonging to the gods. She lowered her eyes and looked at the blood beast below. How can a weapon like you be my opponent? Under this kind of way, mortals can only kneel and worship. No, worship. However, what responded to her was a thunderous roar. Roar. The blood beast struggled and climbed out of the ground. The sharp claws pierced the rock formation and climbed out of the pothole. It is like an evil beast of blood crawling out of the abyss of 9 secluded places. No matter how strong the pressure is, it is useless for it. As a blood beast of slaughtering weapons, it dares to take action against any existence. As that's so, Yu Zhao's hand slowly put down and put away the jade fan. She took off a mirror from her waist. Then, I will grant you great destruction. 5. The next moment, an obscure spell chanted in the air. It seems that there are countless devout believers who are praising their beliefs. This is our country, the kingdom of gods, the country of Zongjin with abundant water sources and rich harvests. Closing square bracket. The country pours water into Ujinbao, patrols the high sky, patrols the yellow springs, and finally merges into the water, the sky and the sun. Close black lens bracket. I shine on the Rusui country of Fengweiyuan, and add a ring to the ring of 8 search. This is Kuno, this is Amaterasu. Open black lens bracket Shuishan Niko Amaterasu Hachino Town Stone, close black lens bracket. Xuanyuan Mausoleum, there is an endless stream from the underworld. Azumo has a god, it is really beautiful, and it gives soul breath. Close black lens bracket. Amaterasu Mountains, rivers and waters are the evidence of freedom, and it is called Yuzhao Town Stone. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket the mirror of the god treasure Yuka, close black lens bracket. A layer of enchantment is unfolded in the arena. This is the kingdom of God in front of Tamamo. There is a blazing sun shining on it, and the power of the sun is full. There are 9 netherworld rivers below, and the nether breath is billowing. The blood beast was pulled into the enchantment kingdom without any resistance. Everyone in the audience was dumbfounded. Only Chen said with a calm expression, this is the noble phantasm in front of Tamamo. The town stone is enshrined in Azumo, and it is said that it is a divine treasure brought from the sky by Wu Rizao, and it is also the divine body of Amaterasu god tier. Of course, the town stone here is not the one that later fell even the Lingay and became a D-rank anti-military noble phantasm. It is a genuine X-class noble phantasm with a complete body and spirit. Boom. 99. In the enchantment, there was a loud noise. Afterwards, the tumultuous aura gradually calmed down. Tread. Yu Zhao landed slowly in front of him, and reached out to wipe on the treasure mirror. Immediately, the entire barrier shrank and disappeared, turning into nothingness. She also gracefully opened the folding fan, and 9 golden fox tails swayed in the air. Snapped. In the snap of fingers, the screen fell into a stagnation. It's over, Chen reminded aloud as he looked at the people who were still in a daze. Oh. Usopp then reacted. The knot is over. The majesty that belonged to the gods and the impact of the coming of the kingdom of God obviously shocked him a lot. Not only him, but everyone else too. After Sanji came back to his senses, pink hearts appeared in his eyes again, and the corners of his mouth drooled. Hee. Miss Tamamo, my Miss Tamamo. 1.3 Who can refuse a powerful and beautiful 9-tails fox god? Anyway, Sanji said he couldn't. This guy. Nami put a hand on his forehead, apparently there was nothing he could do about it. Zoro's eyes were solemn at this time. What he was thinking about was whether he would be able to draw his sword in the face of the mighty god Weya. The answer is yes. As long as he walks on the path of Kendo, even if death is ahead, he will step forward without hesitation. Thinking of this, his eyes became clearer. Robin, how do you feel this time? Chen smiled and looked at Robin not far away. The biggest feeling is power. 39 Robin said sincerely. It's a power that makes me unable to resist. Facing the 9-tails fox god, she was indeed as small as an ant. Robin shook his head again and said, but I feel that this template is not very similar to me. As she spoke, she also raised a smile. And, didn't you say that the price of power is despairing difficulty? P.S. The author of the street is looking for an automatic subscription online. Thanks Terry, Shu Chan, 18,797 monthly pass. This chapter contains pictures. Click the illustration button in the lower right corner of the screen to view the pictures. She is now very familiar with the capable person system of the Forbidden World. From the weak of LV.1 to the superpower of LV.5. Even a higher level 55.6 absolute ability. She already knew about these levels. Interestingly, these abilities called superpowers are all products of the technology side. The use and development of each capability requires a lot of calculations. This is why Nami's training goals include the item corresponding computing power. It can be said that every superpower is a walking humanoid supercomputer. Masaka Makoto, who is as strong as LV.5, is actually a weaker of LV.1 at the beginning, not a superpower of LV.5 as soon as he wakes up. She also developed and learned step by step to improve her ability to the current level. If you look at it this way, the little nun called Index is probably also a heaven-defying existence. However, Chen shook his head. No, in the Forbidden World, not only the ability to measure technology, but also the ability of the magic side. An index is a typical representative of the magic side. As he said that, a meaningful smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Do you think, why do I call her the magic book library? In her mind, the 1,003,000 magic books basically cover the magic formulas of the entire world. This one might even be called an encyclopedia of magic. Wait, Nami's eyes widened suddenly. What did you just say? 1,003,000 magic books. 9. The other people around also looked over, as if some had not recovered. Obviously, when Lu Chen introduced it before, they didn't listen carefully. In other words, I heard it, but my cognition subconsciously regarded it as 1 billion or 3,000 books. This is still an exaggeration, but compared to other monsters, it is not unacceptable. But 1,003,000 magic books, the concept is completely different. It can be said that the little nun in the field almost means the concept of magic itself. Robin's eyes became even more burning. 1,003,000 copies. This quantity, she could never read it in her entire life. Even if you don't eat, drink, or sleep, you can't finish it. Of course, this also confirmed the ability of the little nun in the arena. Lu Chen shrugged and said, Index has the special constitution of complete memory ability. Whether she expects it or not, she will put everything in front of her into her head. 39. This kind of thing, in his previous life, was called hypermesis. But the difference is, in these magic books, some knowledge is that ordinary people will lose their sanity when they see it, or even go crazy. However, Index has a special constitution, and her brain structure has the function of defending against the pollution of the original canon. That's why she was able to seal all these magic books in her memory. Everything. Robin frowned slightly and lowered his voice. Then she must have had a hard time. Lu Chen glanced at her unexpectedly, then nodded and said, not only is it hard work, but it is also an extremely heavy mission. For a while, everyone was silent. A person who carries a billion magic books, how heavy his mission is, in fact, you can feel it just by thinking about it. And such a person is only 14 or 15 years old. Lu Chen said no more. Then, let's start. Saying that, he snapped his fingers. Snapped. In the arena, the stagnant picture suddenly came to life. Roar. A roar full of thoughts of killing and destruction resounded from the air. The huge body of the blood beast descended out of thin air. Wisps of violent blood energy spread out in the arena, spreading like spider silk. The bloody smell was so strong that it was chilling. The little nun standing there was obviously stunned. You, what are you? 5. Her expression panicked, and she began to step back in a hurry. As a result, one accidentally tripped over his nun's robe and fell directly to the ground. This looks even better than ordinary people. The blood beast seemed to be a little stunned, slowly pacing and turning in circles on the spot. A pair of scarlet eyes stared at the little ant, prey in front of him. The vigilance in nature makes it subconsciously suspect that the other party is showing weakness. But after staring for a while, it found that the other party didn't seem to be pretending, but a real dish. You, don't come here. Index kicked her short legs and moved on the ground. I'm very good. I can magic. It can be seen that she has begun to panic. As the magic book library, Index's stored magical memories are vast. But she herself does not use 003 magic. Its combat power is not even as good as that of an ordinary human. At this moment, she was naturally frightened. Roar. The blood beast seemed to be ashamed of his previous hesitation. At this moment, it suddenly erupted, and a majestic and vast blood swept up like a wolf's smoke. The next moment, its claws stomped hard on the ground. Saw. In the violent sound of breaking through the air, a blood shadow flew past and fell towards the little nun opposite. Even at this critical moment, Index's performance was still just a weak human little girl. Boom. The ground cracked and rubble flew up. The billowing smoke filled the air, obscuring the vision. In the audience, everyone couldn't help but widen their eyes. It won't really be hit. That little nun, from beginning to end, did not show any strong character. Even in the last second before the blood beast fell, they didn't see any resistance from her. Don't worry, Lu Chen's expression was as calm as ever. Sure enough, the next moment. In the smoke, a faint blue light flickered. It was as if there was a thunderbolt passing through it. After the smoke cleared, everyone saw that the huge blood beast was showing its teeth and claws, but it couldn't get close to the little nun even by a millimeter. Because it is in front of it. A azure blue energy wall is standing still. And that Index, who was originally innocent and lovely, now has an indifferent expression on her face. There was no emotion in his eyes. Around her body, a circle of magic elements surrounded her. Vaguely, you can still see the shadows of countless magic books. Here, Lu Chen's eyes narrowed. Automatic Secretary. Chapter 103 The Ultimate Defense Mechanism. Automatic Counterattack. Mobile Church, Sword of Victory. Automatic Secretary, Lu Chen explained, this is Index's defense mechanism. It is usually in a dormant state, but when the catalog of banned books faces a life crisis or an attack by a foreign enemy, it will automatically activate and start to replace Index to deal with or repel powerful enemies. The effect is, all the magic spells recorded in the magic book library can be used at will. After speaking, he glanced at the expressionless little nun in the field. The disadvantage is that, as indicated by the word automatic, she will only analyze magic in a mechanized way, construct the corresponding magic and execute it. It's like a setup program in a computer program. Only go to the machine to perform tasks. To put it simply, the consciousness of the little nun in the arena is no longer her own. It's an automatic defense counterattack program. As that's so, the faces of the people on the side were stunned. Robin frowned slightly. As this, what the library needs to carry. In her opinion, this little nun has been transformed into a pure tool by the so-called magic sect. A tool without a life of its own. As if the whole life was born to carry those 103,000 magic books. And it has also been implanted with a defense system, etc., and it is completely used as a tool. That's right, Chen shrugged. Index's fate was already doomed when she was born. This is the inevitable result. Because only Index can remember that vast book of magic. In particular, ordinary people will even go mad when they see these books. Therefore, when a person who can carry these magic books appears, those magic sects will naturally not let them go. At this moment, there was another change in the arena. Kakaka. A crack appeared on the azure blue energy defense wall. Roar. The violent power of the blood beast burst out completely, and the sharp claws were attached with extremely strong blood energy, and they grabbed it brazenly. Blood color and azure blue are mixed together, constantly eroding. As the power of the blood beast continued to explode, the blue energy wall was finally torn apart. Obviously, this magical defensive wall has been unable to stop the invasion of the blood beasts. Saw. The blood claw suddenly pierced through the air and grabbed towards Index. Nami and others in the audience even closed their eyes unbearably. The platinum and white nun's robe on Index suddenly swayed without wind and floated slightly. An invisible wave suddenly swayed from the nun's robe and pushed it away. The blood beast's claws were pushed back by an inch. Although it tried its best to explode its power, it was of no avail. Directly blown away by this invisible force. Roar. In the unwilling roar, the blood beast broke through the air again and rushed. However, the result did not change. That nun's uniform seemed to be the strongest fortress in the world, exempting all incoming attacks. Moving the church. Chen explained, Index's monastic uniform contains the minimum essential elements of the church. Including the weave of the cloth, the stitching of the thread, and the embroidery of the embroidery are all carefully calculated. And the cloth completely reproduces the cloth of the holy corpse of Dulin, that is, the cloth wrapped around the body of the saint when he was penetrated by the spear of Longinus. So the strength of the mobile church is papal level, in scientific terms, nuclear bomb level. The reason why it is called the mobile church is because this nun's robe itself is equivalent to the overall defensive power of a magical church, and it is also Index's ultimate defensive barrier. Everyone was stunned and stared blankly at the robe on the little nun in the field. Usopp's words are not easy to say. Just a piece of clothing can have such a terrible ability. Nami's eyes when looking at the nun's clothes are even more luminous. Good baby. Witch's address. This is clearly a moving treasure house enchantment. Boom. In the arena, the blood beast was blown away by the mobile church, again. This time, it did not attack rashly, but slowly took a few steps back and shook its head, as if thinking about whether there was something wrong with its attack. Opposite, the indifferent Index finally moved. She raised her little hand slowly and opened her palm at the blood beast. Street George Sanctuary. 5. A string of inexplicable incantations came out of her mouth. Boom. The majestic magic burst out suddenly. In Index's pair of pupils, 2 magic circles emerged out of thin air. And the 2 magic circles expanded rapidly, turning into 2 magic circles with a diameter of more than 2 meters, suspended in the air in front of her. A blazing white magical light shone on the ground around her. Then, the 2 magic circles cracked in all directions with the contact as the center. The cracks in the space continued to spread like a spider web. In the auditorium, Chen also spoke in a timely manner. St. George's domain, magic with absolute domain restrictions. This field has an absolutely repelling defense, and of course, it also forms the basis for subsequent magic. Really. As Chen's voice fell, the magic on Index has surged again. Dragon breath. In the crack in the space created by the sanctuary of St. George, a large swath of blazing white light rose up. Finally, a white light beam with a diameter of about 1 meter was formed in midair. Boom. The blazing white beam suddenly pierced through the space, and passed through the blood beast in one breath. There is no room for any reaction. In the air, there is still a trace of cracks in the space. Ow. The blood beast seemed to have suffered heavy damage, and the blood was gurgling down. In its belly pierced by the blazing white beam of light, all flesh and blood turned into white glowing feathers. The feathers were mixed with a lot of blood, floating in the air and falling. This blow directly hollowed out its entire abdomen. That is, the killing weapon of the blood beast. Changed to a normal creature, it must have died under this blow. Dragon King's Sai, Chen said. With the help of the spatial crack in St. George's domain, a powerful magic attack technique was launched. Quote. Its power claims to be able to kill a giant dragon, and that's where the name of its technique comes from. Everyone was silent for a while. Is Index, who seems to be invincible now, really the same person as the innocent little nun from before? In the arena, a large number of light particles suddenly floated around Index. A new string of incantations came out of her mouth. Levitain. These light particles form a long and thin western sword. But it was not held in Index's hand, but suspended in front of her. Sword of the God of Harvest, Lu Chen's voice rang out in the audience. It is also called the Sword of Victory. In the legend, among the Norse gods, the god Frey, who is in charge of sunlight and abundance, possesses a divine sword. It is rumored that no matter who masters this sword will fly alone on the battlefield to kill the enemy according to the wish of the sword holder. 5. In other words, this sword does not require a user. Zoro's eyes narrowed slightly. A sword with self-awareness. The Zanpakuto in his hand is also conscious. This has become more and more obvious to him in recent days. These days, he is sitting cross-legged on the deck meditating, just to communicate with his knife. Although this may sound fantastic, he has indeed felt that unique mental fluctuation. And the current situation is just as Lu Chen said. In the arena, Index just waved her hand lightly. The long sword suspended in front of her flew out directly, stabbing towards the blood beast. There is no need for the sword bearer to perform any kind of swordsmanship with it. These things, I am afraid that the sword wielder does not understand it better. Roar! Exclamation mark. The blood beast roared in anger. The injury on his body did not make it hesitant, but instead stimulated its natural brutality. An endless stream of blood suffused the air. The long sword belonging to God, and this monster representing killing, launched a different kind of battle. A trail of blood painted a strange and poignant scene in the air. In the roar of the blood beast, a large number of sword scar wounds were also cut out on the body. But at the same time, the power fluctuations on the long sword are gradually being suppressed. However, this is not the real sword of victory. Rather, it was the product of Index's magical powers gathered together. If the true body of the undefeated sword of victory came, the blood beast would have been completely beheaded. Finally, boom, a dull sound came out. The giant claws of the blood beast pressed the long sword to the ground. The magic power on the long sword is still struggling, but it is already good revolving heaven powerless. Che la la la. Under the erosion of blood, the sword body composed of magic light particles began to crumble inch by inch. In the end, it completely turned into a mass of light particles and dissipated in the air. Roar. 35. The blood beast roared in the sky, as if it had finally defeated the catharsis of the powerful enemy. Although it has been seriously injured, this does not prevent it from declaring its victory. On the opposite side, Index was already kneeling on the ground quietly, her eyes were half closed, her hands were folded in front of her chest in a prayer-like gesture. In the audience, Nami asked suspiciously, "Is this surrender?" No, Lu Chen's eyes narrowed slightly, he could see a wave of magic that far surpassed the previous one, slowly gathering. I'm afraid this is a big move. Everyone looked blankly. In the field, the blood beasts and their thoughts are the same. After defeating the long sword, it started heading towards the ant-like little prey. But halfway through, it suddenly froze in place. A terrifying, suffocating magic power suddenly rose up on the ground. The little nun who was sitting on the ground was full of piety, and a complex magic circle suddenly appeared on her face. Chapter 104 God, why did you leave me? The god of ninjas has come. Senju Hashirama, a familiar feeling. Ioyalama Sabachthani. 0.99. A string of obscure incantations slowly recited from Index's mouth. The magic circle that emerged from her face suddenly enlarged, covering a large area of space. Red and black radiance bloomed in midair, like a devil flower blooming in hell. Come on. In the audience, Lu Chen's eyes suddenly froze. The eyes of everyone around him widened. This huge to terrifying magical tide. Even if they don't know magic, they can clearly feel it. What? Robin stared blankly at the girl who seemed to be praying devoutly. She knew that the battle was probably coming to an end. The kind of magical fluctuations that are terrifying to ultimate, even if they are in the audience, there is a sense of crisis that is about to face extinction. It was as if a sword of Damocles was hanging over his head. Forbidden spell, Lu Chen on the side said calmly. The meaning of the string of spells just now is God, why did you leave me? This string of incantations seemed to be filled with a poignant sense of despair. It is the prayer of a believer who has been abandoned by his own faith. While speaking, the red and black light covered the entire arena. Roar. The blood beast roared, but there was an unwillingness in its voice. In this ray of light, even its body made of endless blood began to gradually annihilate. The mysterious magic circle slowly revolved, as if it was wiping out the vitality of the blood beast. The blood energy rising like wolf smoke was gradually wiped out in the magic circle. The body that was comparable to a giant whale was shattered inch by inch, and finally turned into flying ashes. And under such a picture, a little nun in a white gold robe was kneeling on the ground, her face full of piety, as if ignoring all visions from the outside world. There is no suspense. When Index opened her eyes again, the battle 003 was over. That huge and hideous blood beast can't even see a shadow. There were only cracks and pits all over the ground, a reminder that the battle was not false. Index widened her eyes and looked at the messy scene in front of her. Could it be that I've entered a state of awakening again? That's right, she called her automatic writing mode awakening. It's like those teenagers always fantasize that they can explode into a mini-universe state. Although this statement is very secondary, but in a sense it is true. Great, it seems that there is no danger. Index patted her chest as if after the catastrophe. In her memory, she had encountered a terrifying monster before. But now that monster has been defeated by her awakened state. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the picture in the arena fell back into a state of stagnation. In the audience, at this time, everyone slowly let out a sigh of relief. Just now, they all felt the threat of death. Of course, there was one person who didn't respond, and that was Luffy. With a blank expression on his face, he didn't even forget to raise his hand to pick his nose. Well, he's quite a bit of a person. 35. Huh. Nami wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. I thought this trick would affect us. No, Chen said calmly. The auditorium of the arena is an invincible area just like the viewing area in the trial dojo. Of course I know this, Nami said helplessly, but the sense of danger just now was too real. It was so real that she almost had a hallucination like a marquis. It seems that in the next moment, he will be wiped out like that blood beast. Usopp on the side seemed to be wiping his long nose with a relaxed expression. ACBDHMPH, but that's it, nothing can scare the great Captain Usopp. Everyone looked at him speechlessly. If the guy's legs weren't shaking, they probably believed it. Chopper, by contrast, was much more honest, his teeth chattering slightly. Well, what a horrible nun. Obviously she is such a pure and lovely little nun. As a result, it can be so terrifying after triggering the battle state. Sanji on the side was full of regret. Unfortunately, I'm not interested in such little girls. 99. Boom. Before he could finish speaking, Nami slammed him to the ground with a skilled fist. Along the way, she also blew a breath on her fist, and the movement can be described as flowing smoothly and in one go. Zoro's performance is much more serious. Holding the long knife, his face was solemn. Very powerful power. Unfortunately, this power does not actually belong to this nun named Index. To be precise, this power belongs to the Automatic Defense Program Automatic Secretary. And this defense program is obviously implanted by that magic sect. Including the exaggerated nun's robe called Mobile Sect. It was also created by that magic sect. Such a person, Zoro cannot regard his opponent as an opponent. In other words, it is regarded as a goal to be surpassed. Unless Index itself is a true magician who has mastered these magics. So, how do you feel? Chen turned to look at Robin not far away. Me. Robin's expression was a little complicated. He raised his hand and brushed the long hair around his ear, and then said. To be honest, I am very interested in 103,000 magic books. However, this approach is not acceptable to me. In the last sentence, her tone was very firm. It can be said that this amount of magic books is undoubtedly a treasure trove. But in Robin's view, it is not a blessing for Index to carry this treasure house on her back. On the contrary, it is precisely because of this that this little nun's fate is far more tragic than ordinary people. As that's so, Chen didn't say much, just turned his head and continued to look in the direction of the arena. Then, let's go next. 99. Saying that, he snapped his fingers. Snapped. The screen in the arena suddenly reset. The potholes and cracks on the ground, including the raging magic power, were all smoothed out one by one. At the same time, a new figure descended on the field. This is a middle-aged man with long black hair, which is casually scattered behind him. Wearing a black tight combat uniform with red layered armor on the outside. On the layered armor on the left shoulder, there is a special logo, which represents a family named Senju. The wrists of both hands have red iron bracers. As soon as they appeared on the stage, everyone seemed to have felt the aura that belonged to the strong. Different from those who appeared to be ordinary in the past. This one, at a glance, knows that he is an absolute powerhouse. His face is bold and upright, and his aura is upright and upright. Just from the appearance, you can see what kind of character this person is. Senju Hashirama, Chen introduced. The first Hokage of Konohagakure is good at using wood-style secret techniques, and enjoys the title of God of Ninja. At the same time, he is also the chakra reincarnation of Ashura, the second son of Sage of Six Paths, and possesses a fairy body. If the Uchiha clan's Hitomi bloodline represents the ultimate of yin escape, then the Senju clan, no, just Senju Hashirama himself, represent the ultimate of Yangdun. Like the wood style he created. Also a user of wood style, Hashirama used it to control the nine-headed beast and swept the world. And Yamato can only use it to build houses. The difference has shown the power of Hashirama to the fullest. Right, Chen turned his head to look at Chopper, the nine-tails demon fox named Kurama, you saw before, and he are from the same world. Huh, Chopper froze. Chen looked at Sanji again. The template you chose, Might Guy, is also a character from the same world. Oh, Sanji got up from the ground, looked a little more serious, and looked at the arena. Unfortunately, it broke in a second. A disdainful expression appeared on his face. Shout man. Boom. With another punch, Nami withdrew his fist without changing his face. Now she's used to it, talking to this guy is completely useless, it's better to do it directly. After the fight, Nami also turned to look at the arena, and said thoughtfully, well, take a closer look, this uncle is quite handsome. Zoro Wei Ning on the side. These are not important, I only know that this is a rare powerhouse. 5. In his opinion, the so-called strong is not only in terms of strength. You have to have the mindset to match it. Like the previous Index. Although he has a strong power, that mentality is undoubtedly a weak, in Zoro's view. Of course, the weak here is not derogatory, and it may be more appropriate to replace it with ordinary people. But the God of Ninja in front of him is different. As soon as he appeared on the stage, Zoro seemed to have seen the heart of a strong man, which was beating constantly. This made the fire of war in his eyes couldn't help but burn. Chen shook his head with no surprise. All in all, let's get started. Saying that, he snapped his fingers again. Snapped. In the arena, the time that was suspended starts to elapse again. Roar. The familiar roar of the blood beast resounded. The huge body appeared out of thin air in midair, casting a large shadow. The majestic blood energy spreads out, shrouding the space everywhere. The strong smell of blood came from the nostrils, making people wonder if they were in a slaughterhouse somewhere. Crackling. The ground was cracked by the giant claws of the blood beast, as if it could not bear the vast blood energy. Huh. Senju Hashirama raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at the behemoth in front of him. Who are you? He raised his hand and touched his chin in confusion, as if thinking of something, and couldn't help grinning a funny smile. Could it be that you are Kurama's long-lost brother? In an instant, the aura that belonged to the god of ninja was completely destroyed, and the image could be said to be completely reversed. Everyone in the audience was stunned. They saw something familiar in this man. At this time, Luffy on the side also laughed. This guy is so funny. At this time, everyone finally knew where that familiar feeling came from. After all, his own captain is such a wonderful character. P.S. The author of The Street is looking for an automatic subscription online. Thanks Izuo, the demon of death, Jung Tan is a cat eye, the forgotten monthly pass. This chapter contains pictures. Click the illustration button in the lower right corner of the screen to view the pictures. Shadows, one big and one small, seem to freeze in midair. I saw Hashirama standing on the ground, raising his hands up, abruptly resisting the blood beast's house-sized claws. The ground beneath his feet began to crack every inch, apparently unable to bear such a weight. This scene is very much like an ant fighting a mountain. The visual impact can be described as great. Although Senju Hashirama's main ability is in ninjutsu, his taijutsu is also not to be underestimated. In the audience, Chen explained. For example, the weird power he is using now. Precise control of the chakra, to concentrate the chakra throughout the body. It can even burst into a strong airflow from the air, easily smashing the wall. That's right, this ability is in the same line as Tsunade's weird power. But obviously, with the support of Hashirama's terrifying physique and chakra, the outburst of power is even more terrifying. In the arena, go. Senju Hashirama rolled his eyes and threw his hands violently. The huge blood beast was thrown out directly by him, and the momentum was comparable to that of an overlord throwing an elephant. Boom. The blood beast struggled to draw a blood-colored trajectory in the air, and then smashed to the ground. The huge weight directly caused a large pit on the ground. The billowing smoke swept up. As the initiator, Senju Hashirama stood there with a look of emotion. You are so powerful. He said this, as if he was not the one who threw the blood beast just now. But, Senju Hashirama's mouth suddenly grinned, it's always more useful to deal with you big guys. While speaking, he bent down and squatted down, pressing his hands directly on the ground. The majestic chakra poured out as if he didn't want money. Wood style the tree world is coming. Boom. As his voice fell, the ground of the entire arena began to tremble. The ground was cracked inch by inch, bulging upwards, as if something was about to burrow out of the ground. This is. Everyone in the audience opened their eyes wide, staring at this scene. Everyone knows that the one in the field is finally going to use his real skills. The previous physical exercises seemed to be just a warm-up exercise. However, this warm-up is more hardcore. Next moment. In the arena, gray-green trees broke through the ground and came out. These trees greedily breathe fresh air and stretch their branches recklessly. And in just a few breaths, the wild and savage growth began. Soon, the entire arena was shrouded in a towering forest. Every tree here will become the display carrier of Senju Hashirama's wood style. Roar. The blood beast roared angrily. On its huge body, I don't know how many gray-green tree roots wrapped around it, locking it in place. But apparently, it was impossible for the trees alone to lock it. The majestic blood chi wolf smoke rose up. The force erupted, and the blood claws kept tearing the roots of the tree, and it only took a moment to break free of these shackles. It's not over yet. Senju Hashirama's eyes condensed slightly, and a larger chakra surged out. Wood-style flower tree world is coming. 35. For a time, all the trees all over the arena, there are flower buds. And under the huge supply of Yongdun chakra, it grows like crazy. In the blink of an eye, huge flower buds appeared on the trees. This scene is by no means beautiful. On the contrary, anyone who sees this scene will probably feel a chill in their hearts. At least, seeing the appearance of these flower buds, the blood beast struggle became more intense. Its beast instinct is telling it that these flowers are not good things. Senju Hashirama stood up and folded his hands, open. Suddenly, a huge flower bud bloomed, and a lot of pollen-like fluorescent powder was scattered. Zero. Ask for flowers. The entire arena was shrouded in pollen. Roar. 39. The blood beast roared and waved its claws, as if trying to drive away the pollen. Unfortunately, the amount of pollen is so much that it has filled the air, and it still inevitably sucks in a lot. Gradually, the blood beast seemed to be paralyzed, and the strength of its struggle gradually weakened. Huh. Senju Hashirama let out a sigh of relief. Sure enough, it's better to use wood style to deal with you guys. This has been regarded as his old line of work. just when he was about to separate out some trees to completely lock the blood beast to death. In the auditorium, Nami and others were also full of amazement. With a single spell, can the environment of the entire arena be changed? In other words, he turned this arena into his domain abruptly. A best fighting area where wood style can run amok while the enemy struggles. Roar. Suddenly, an extremely violent roar came from the woods, like a tiger roaring in the forest. The incomparably violent blood spread out, eroding the trees on the ground to a faint red. Oh. UB asterisk 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 D. Hashirama's eyes widened slightly, as if he couldn't understand for a while. But soon, he squeezed his fist in one hand and hammered it into the palm of the other, and suddenly said, "Oh, I understand, you are not a living being at all. No wonder your eyes are more violent than Kurama's. I'll just say, that guy is already a collection of hatred, and he can't compare to you. It turns out that you are just a killing weapon." At this moment, the strong temperament he just showed was shattered again. Boom, boom, boom. The ground trembled slightly, and huge towering trees kept falling. The blood beast is like an incarnation of an unstoppable bulldozer, forcibly pushing out a huge passage in this forest. Behind it, smoke billows. Suddenly, an unstoppable momentum was formed. It's really impossible. 35. Hashirama stood on the spot, watching this terrifying scene. The corner of his mouth evoked a smile instead, and there was a long-lost fighting intent rising in his eyes. In the next second, his hands folded together again, with no intention of forming a seal at all. The vast chakra began to surge wildly. Wood-style wood dragon technique. Suddenly, trees on the ground were propped up. A long dragon made of trees grew out of thin air, and twisted towards the blood beast that was running wildly. There is no collision between the two. The wooden dragon quietly fell on the blood beast. Clack. Indistinctly, you can even hear the sound of bones rubbing against each other. The whole wooden dragon is like a rope, clinging to the huge body of the blood beast, entwining tightly. Roar. The blood beast's rushing footsteps were extremely staggering, and it fell directly to the ground, smashing a big hole. Hey, Hashirama grinned. Take it. The wooden dragon began to shrink and lock. The strength of the binding force of this move is not comparable to the arrival of the tree world. Even Nine Tails was tied up by this trick to the point of screaming. Chapter 106 Sage Art. Myojin Gate, the strongest wood style, true several thousand hands. Suffocating Senju Buddha. Roar. The blood beast roared, trying to break free from the shackles of the wooden dragon. The violent blood energy is constantly raging, wanting to directly break through this hateful tree. What's interesting is that the more the wooden dragon is wrapped around, the tighter it is, which can wring Nine Tails out of the screaming power, but it fails to cause much damage to the blood beast. Because the essence of its body is still composed of blood. Physical damage is hard to really do much damage to it. Therefore, although the wooden dragon restrains its actions, it is limited to this. Roar. Suddenly, the blood beast opened its bloody mouth in the direction of Hashirama, and a large amount of blood began to gather in its mouth. When the blood gas was concentrated to a certain ultimate, it even started to produce dark smoke. Boom. 35. The giant mouth spit, and the majestic blood light beam spurted out of the blood beast's mouth. There were layers of trumpet waves in the air, and there was even a light red trail left along the way. That can't be done. Senju Hashirama took a deep breath and let it out slowly. The chakra on his body surged again, and he pressed one hand to the ground. Wood-style wooden golem jutsu. Boom. The ground suddenly cracked, and the ground that had been riddled with holes by the arrival of the tree world completely collapsed at this time. A wooden giant hundreds of meters high suddenly rose from the ground. 003 is on the wooden giant's head, and Hashirama is standing on it, as if he is driving a Gundam. Boom. 35. The majestic asterisk 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 light beam collided with the big hand of the wooden giant. What is astounding is that this beam of light was slapped directly by the giant's hand. Sigh. In the audience, everyone couldn't help but take a breath. Chen explained calmly. Wooden golem jutsu is one of the strongest wood styles that Senju Hashirama can display under normal conditions. The wooden giant can even take the tailed beast bomb with one hand, which Hashirama used to fight evenly with Madara, who controls the Nine Tails. But this trick, basically only he can do it himself. Because the amount of chakra and vitality to be consumed is too great. 35. That's right, the consumption of this move is far beyond what ordinary people imagine. The effect is almost equivalent to recreating a tailed beast out of thin air. That is Hashirama. If you change to a ninja, it is estimated that the giant has not formed, and he has been directly evacuated. You know, this first Hokage has the nickname of human spring water. The horror of its vitality, even after so many years of death, its cells are still used by countless people, creating countless miracles. It is also for this reason that some people call him the source of all evil, and use this to demonstrate the importance of cremation. Boom. In the arena, a piece of smoke and dust billowed up and spread all over the sky. Two huge monsters are fighting head-on. Wooden golem's defense and strength are top-notch, and the blood beast on the opposite side is a ruthless weapon that only knows how to fight and kill. There is no falsehood in the battle between the two sides, it is all head-to-head. UB asterisk 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 D. Hashirama stepped on wooden golem's head, and his eyes finally became slightly solemn. What a strange life force. No, it should be said that you will not die until you exhaust your blood. He has seen through the essence of the blood beast. In fact, it is constructed from the almost endless blood energy. If you want to really kill it, you have to completely wipe out its blood. Then, Hashirama clasped his hands and narrowed his eyes slightly, wood-style laughing Buddha jutsu. The mighty chakra was transmitted from his body to the wooden golem, and then through the wooden golem to the ground beneath his feet. For a time, the ground of the entire arena began to move. Especially around the blood beast, the ground rolled up one after another. Crackling. Suddenly, a big tree hand suddenly broke through the ground and patted the blood beast. Roar. The blood beast was caught off guard and was slapped flying by a big hand. Immediately afterwards, the big tree hand disappeared. When the blood beast landed, another big tree hand protruded from the ground and slapped it fiercely. In just a moment, the blood beast felt exhausted. These wooden hands are obviously more versatile and mobile than the wooden golem jutsu that drives the huge wooden golem. Because the time required to activate this technique is extremely short. The enemy didn't know where those hands would appear, and they were elusive and hard to avoid. Hashirama used this move to catch Susanoo's invincible sword slash. He also directly grabbed the limbs of Nine Tails and fixed it on the ground so that he could not move. It can be said that this technique and wooden golem jutsu are the strongest wood style that Hashirama can perform under normal conditions. Boom. There was another dull explosion, and the blood beast finally caught up with the wooden hand's attack. The huge claws were filled with blood energy, and one claw directly toward the attacking wooden hand. But then, wooden golem kicked and kicked it away again. If this goes on, it will be a matter of time before the blood beast is subdued. In the auditorium, everyone finally exhaled slowly. The overall situation is set. It can be said that the defeat of the blood beast is only a matter of time. The next battle, in fact, is no longer so important. It can be said that this god of ninjas has shown them enough power. Not to mention other things, just this wood-style ninjutsu is enough to make people amazed. However, Lu Chen's light words made their eyes widen suddenly. That guy, he hasn't done his best yet. This, Usopp pointed to the terrifying scene in the field that seemed to be fighting with ancient giants, isn't this full? The rest were also full of disbelief. That's right, Lu Chen shrugged. Not only did he not do his best, but he was far from it. 35. The voice fell, and the atmosphere in the audience became a little silent. Looking at the scene below that seemed to be fighting between gods and demons, everyone didn't know what to say for a while. Finally, a new situation has emerged in the arena. Or rather, Senju Hashirama finally has a new move. It's too long to go on like this. 99. He stood quietly on the top of the wooden giant's head, with his hands on his chest, and his long black hair fluttered in the wind. Let's get you out this morning. After he finished speaking, his eyes narrowed suddenly. Without any warning, red patterns appeared on Hashirama's eyes and between his eyebrows. The majestic natural energy began to flow into his body. A looming terrifying aura grew stronger and stronger, as if it were endless. The surrounding air was slightly distorted, as if it had been squeezed by some terrible force. Come on, Lu Chen reminded aloud in the audience. Sage mode, this is what the Hashirama guy really looks like in full force. Also, Senju Hashirama's sage mode is extremely powerful. Not only is the perfect sage mode, it will not cause appearance changes like Jiraiya, Kabuto, etc. It doesn't even take prep time like Naruto. This guy's sage mode, you can enter it instantly. This is sage body. Its power is beyond doubt. Call. Standing on top of the wooden giant, Hashirama let out a light breath. The next moment, the wooden giant under his feet began to slowly disintegrate, as if the source of chakra supply had been lost. The wooden hand that kept sticking out from the ground and slapping the blood beast also stopped. The blood beast finally got a chance to breathe. At this time, it did not attack rashly, but watched the prey on the opposite side vigilantly and slowly retreated. That increasingly huge aura can be said to be particularly conspicuous in its perception. Blood beasts are killing weapons, and the word fear does not exist in thinking. But that doesn't mean it's a mindless beast that only knows how to attack mindlessly. Such behavior, on the contrary, cannot achieve true killing. Only by knowing the weakness of the prey and finding the right time to kill it with a single shot is the real killing strategy. Well, Hashirama stood on the ground, clenched his fists, and nodded with satisfaction. It's almost there. 35. Saying that, he looked up at the blood beast in the distance. Then, let's start. A chakra that was much larger than before poured out of his body. And, this time, it's Sage Art chakra that combines natural energy. Sage Art Mayayanman. Suddenly, the space in the sky distorted. A huge red torii gate was called out of thin air, a traditional building consisting of one horizontal and two vertical columns. Then it smashed down towards the place where the blood beast was. Boom. The ground trembled, and cracks spread like spider webs in all directions. The billowing smoke swept up, obscuring the sight. Roar. Faintly, the unwilling roar of the blood beast could be heard. After the smoke and dust dissipated, everyone saw that the giant blood beast had been crushed under the building. This time, it didn't break free easily. Compared with the tree world, wood dragon and other restraints called by the previous wood style. The repressive power of this torii is obviously not comparable. In other words, Hashirama who has entered the sage mode, his spells have been improved in a qualitative way. Converted from wood style to sage art. This move was used to suppress the movement of 10 tails, and Hashirama used it to suppress the 1.3 Madara of dirty earth for a time. If it weren't for Madara's real body resurrection, I'm afraid I really can't break free. It's over. Senju Hashirama's expression became much more solemn. As a killing weapon, the best ending may be death, and this is the real relief. As he spoke, his hands were folded, and his eyes were half closed. A huge chakra, which seemed to be endless, began to pour out like crazy without money. Suddenly, Hashirama's eyes suddenly opened, and there was a faint light in his pupils. Sage art wood style true several thousand hands. Kakaka. This time, the entire arena truly trembled. Its movement is so great that it is even more violent than the previous large-scale ninjutsu combined. The ground was pushed open everywhere, and a large amount of earth and rocks flew. The scope of its spread is comparable to the sum of dozens of wooden golem jutsu. Finally, under the suffocating gaze of everyone, a huge Buddha statue with countless arms rose from the ground, reaching the sky as high as the sky. Its size is almost equivalent to hundreds of wooden giants. This is the strongest wood style, true several thousand hands. Chapter 107. Transform into a Buddha on the top, destroy the sky and destroy the earth. Template selection, training plan, and new bounty exposure. At this moment, the entire auditorium fell into silence. Everyone even slowed down their breathing, as if they were afraid of the sound of breathing, which disturbed the terrifying Buddha statue in the field. What is this? The cigarette in Sanji's mouth was shaking. Nami's expression froze completely. I don't know, maybe, it's a fairy. In the beginning, after Senju Hashirama came, whether it's a physical art, or a few spells such as the tree world descending and the wooden dragon, all gave them a certain understanding of the strength of this, god of ninja. And think that this is indeed a very powerful ninja. Until this one started using wooden golem jutsu and laughing Buddha jutsu. After that, it was even scarier, from wood style to sage art. A Mingxian gatekeeper suppressed the blood beasts, and the backhand was a true several thousand hands, which directly left their minds blank. It can be said that it is all the way to kill the super god. Aside, Chopper and Usopp move in perfect sync. The two of them sat back on the chair in the auditorium as if their legs were weak, but the expressions on their faces were forced to remain calm. Yeah, that's all. The great Captain Usopp is the strongest. Well, after all, it's the god of ninjas, it's normal to have such strength, normal. Unfortunately, when they spoke, their voices were trembling. Not far away, Zoro was leaning on the guardrail, his hands were already holding down the hilt of the knife, his eyes were full of fiery, such a power. I will catch up. So big. Just then, an exclamation sounded. Luffy was sitting cross-legged on the railing, with two hands on his forehead, as if looking into the distance, looking up at the huge Buddha statue in the field. His face was full of amazement, but not a trace of fear. It seems that he is really just wondering why this Buddha statue is so big. This guy. Nami on the side covered his face. You are a little in awe. Robin stared at the Buddha statue for a long time, then turned back to Chen. Is that why you chose him as one of my templates? Chen shrugged, his face unchanged. It fits, isn't it? From the many wooden hands of laughing Buddha jutsu, to this true several thousand hands called, true Senju Avalokitesvara. These spells are obviously not incompatible with Robin's, flower fruit. Robin hesitated for a moment, then shook his head and said, it's too far away. The strength gap between the two sides is too far. It can be said that there is almost no possibility of seeing it. It's okay. Chen's expression was calm. I also customized a special training plan for Chopper before. The same is true for you, you can choose the appropriate template first, and as for other abilities, you can get them later. Robin was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Is this still possible? I understand. In the arena, since the appearance of this giant Buddha statue that reaches into the sky, both sides of the battle have fallen into a sense of silence. To be precise, the blood beast fell into silence. Before, and in front of it, the Senju Hashirama opposite was a little bit. But now, in front of this big Buddha that seems to cover the sky, it has become that little one. At this time, Hashirama directly lifted the suppression of Myojin Gate. This means that he is ready to end the battle. Ow. The blood beast jumped up and walked slowly on the ground. For a while, he didn't even know how to attack. This scene is very similar to the old saying, a mouse eats an elephant, and there is no way to speak. And Hashirama, who was standing on the top of the big Buddha, was drooping his eyes slightly at this time, and let out a small breath. Who? Then let me set you free. His hands were folded together, and his eyes suddenly burst open. The majestic chakra poured into the Buddha at the foot. Turn into a Buddha on the top. Kakaka. Everyone could hear a dull bang. Under everyone's attention, the entire Buddha began to move. The countless arms began to move forward as if they had come to life. In the next moment, it will be astonishing. Boom. Like thunder, thousands of huge fists fell down at the same time. Layers of air waves were broken open, and the terrifying explosion of air was endless, as if the air was blasted by this terrifying force. Every inch of the ground shattered, and smoke filled the audience. All the weight of the entire Buddha seems to be condensed on the fist. Each fist can destroy mountains and meteorites, and the terrifying power of its power seems to smash the entire space. Even everyone in the auditorium could clearly feel the violent shock. In the Battle of the Valley of the End, Hashirama used this technique to destroy Madara's armor Susanoo. Of course, the Valley of the End itself was also created by the huge destructive power of this move. In the instant the fist fell, the breath of the blood beast began to annihilate rapidly. Another weird structure. In the face of absolute power, it is also useless. Break through all methods. Snapped. With the snap of his fingers, the picture in the arena suddenly fell into a stagnation. This picture is like a scene of doomsday. Even if it has been suspended, people can't help but feel a sense of despair. Then, in the audience, Chen turned to look at Robin. Now tell me, your choice. Robin came back to his senses with a hesitant expression. Of the 4 templates, she ruled out first, the third. That is Index. Although 103,000 magic books seem to be beautiful, they even cover the magic knowledge of the whole world. For Robin, who likes to read books, it has an unparalleled attraction. But that kind of library status as a tool was not what she wanted. The remaining 3, the ability of Heaven's Gate, is very similar to her. Although it does not seem to be a frontal combat type of ability, it is definitely not weak. In addition, it can turn others into a book to read at will. She is almost certain about this template. And the Nine-Tails deity, Tamamo May. His high personality and so many incarnations are terrifying. However, the compatibility between the two is not enough, and if they are too powerful, the training will be too difficult, so she is also excluded. As for the last one, to be honest, Robin's heart was shaken when he saw the Senju Buddha that seemed to fill the sky. Who doesn't want to call out such a great Buddha to swept away everything with the touch of a hand when facing a group of powerful enemies? Robin, don't hesitate, just follow your heart. Not far away, Zoro leaned against the railing, his eyes half closed, and he said solemnly. Robin blinked, then looked firm. I choose the first one. Okay, Chen chuckled, I'll arrange other abilities for you after you have fully acquired the Gate of Heaven. 5. After he finished speaking, he snapped his fingers again. Then, let's end this day, you go back and have a good rest. Dojo trials and arena observations, the 2 illusions are still not small for everyone's mental consumption. Especially a certain Straw Hat Boy, who died 3 times in the dojo trial. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the space suddenly shattered. Everyone only felt that it was dark in front of them, and the consciousness returned to Going Mary's deck. And Chen shouted from the bottom of his heart. System, order, train Robin, and get the power, ripple. 39. This is the pre-power of the substitute, and it can be regarded as an entry. Ding. The training plan has been drawn up. Close black lens bracket. Training object. Nico Robin. Close black lens bracket. Training goal. Gain strength. Life energy, ripple, L. Dot. Training plan. Feel the energy of your own life. Close black lens bracket. Crash. The sound of the waves came into my ears, and the sun from the sky gently shone down. Everyone standing on the deck felt as if they had passed away, but in fact, less than a minute had passed. At this time, Chen's voice sounded leisurely. You guys should go and rest first. Although the time in the fantasy world passes quickly, the mental wear and tear is real. Understood. It happened that I was sleepy too. I'm going to bed. Everyone waved their hands and walked into the cabin lounge, each yawning. Only Robin stood there. You haven't told me, what's the training program? Well, 003. Chen paused for a while, then said, actually, it's just a sentence, it's enough to feel the life energy in your body. This is the first stage. It allows you to obtain the power of ripple, and it will be much more convenient to obtain the substitute ability of Gate of Heaven in the future. Despite what he said, Robin's face was still blank. What life energy? How do you feel? For a moment, she thought of Chopper. The little reindeer is also staring at the orange tree on the boat every day. And Zoro, that green algae head, keeps his knife in his hands every day. Listen to him, is he talking to the knife? All in all, Robin feels like he might be caught in this vicious circle too. The next day, the sky is fine. A carrier pigeon of the World Economic News flew by and dropped several wanted notices on the boat. Oh, Chen reached out and grabbed a few wanted notices. Woo, Luffy, who was bored on the bow, was the first to react and ran over quickly. Interesting, Chen looked at the wanted warrant in his hand thoughtfully. Monkey D. Luffy, captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, has a bounty of 100 million Baileys. Roronoa Zoro, cadre and combatant of the Straw Hat Pirates, has a bounty of 60 million Baileys. Chen, the leader of the Straw Hat Pirates, with a bounty, 500 million Baileys. In a pirate group, there will be a phenomenon that the pirates under his command have more bounties than the captain. Chen handed the wanted warrant to Luffy, who couldn't wait, and rested his head on his arm again. Tisk, it must be that guy Aokiji who did it. This time Luffy's group's bounty was raised, obviously because they killed Crocodile, one of the Shichibukais, Sand Crocodile. As for Alabasta and his party, Chen didn't make a move. At least not on the bright side. Therefore, there should be no other reason for his bounty increase except for Aokiji, who had a fight with him. Chapter 108. The World Shakes. The Headache Naval Headquarters arrives in the capital of Seven Waters. The Captured God. Woohoo! Luffy looked at the top reward order with excitement on his face. 100 million reward. This means that from the moment the reward was issued, Marine has admitted that he is a big pirate with enough threat. Seeing his appearance, the people around him also gathered around. Nami praised. Not bad, you guy, 100 million. This is a hurdle. I haven't seen those pirates in the 4 seas, no matter how powerful they are no more than tens of millions of Bailey's bounties. Reaching 100 million means that they have made a name for themselves in this grand line. Usopp looked at him enviously. That's great, Luffy, you have already offered a reward of 100 million, and I don't know when we will be able to have a reward order. Sanji bit his cigarette. This kind of thing doesn't matter at all, right? Zoro on the side suddenly reminded. Isn't there 2 more below? Chopper found this too. Really, Luffy, look. Luffy opened the wanted notice on the second page. The character printed on it is Zoro. And the bounty is as high as 60 million Bailey. This is because he defeated Mr. 1, the strongest fighting force of the Baroque Society. Immediately after, Luffy opened the last wanted notice. For a while, the deck seemed to fall into silence. Everyone stared at the wanted order in astonishment. Usopp's voice trembled. 500 million. I read that right. Nami is already counting zeros. 1 0, 2 zeros, 3, 8 zeros. At the end of the count, her expression froze. It's really 500 million. Even Zoro's expression became solemn. 500 million. But when he turned to look at the young man in black on the side of the boat, he was relieved. That guy does have such strength. Chopper looked expectant. I don't know how much it will be after I have a reward. Robin rubbed its head and said with a smile. At least, there should be 5 million, right? 99. Chopper smiled and said, really? Although it can't catch up with 500 million, it's not bad. Even in this grand line known as the Devil Sea, there are still only a handful of pirates who can reach a bounty of 500 million. Especially in the Paradise, in the first half of the grand line. Even those bounties down to Shichibukai are only between tens of millions to 3 or 4 billion. Like a certain sand crocodile, the reward is only more than 80 million. Because after they show their strength, they will be recruited by the world government and increase the stop reward. And other powerful pirates who were not recruited. Either they entered the New World, or most of them have sunk to the bottom of the sea. In this case, the first half of the Grand Line suddenly added a real big pirate with a reward of 500 million. The effect is undoubtedly dropping a bomb into a pool of calm water. Not to mention Luffy and others, almost half of the people in the sea were shaken. Meanwhile, Grand Line, Kragana Island. Hawkeye was sitting on a chair, looking at the wanted warrant in his hand with a calm expression. He looked at Zoro's portrait. Have you come this far, that green algae-headed boy? Then, Hawkeye saw a familiar portrait. Black clothes, black hair, and a pair of scarlet blood-colored pupils are terrifying. His eyes narrowed. 500 million. It seems that the Mariajoy guys have already caught the attention. Hawkeye was not at all surprised by the amount of the reward. He even felt low. Just a few days ago, he also met Shanks and others who had returned from East Blue. Knowing that Shanks also fought against Lu Chen, and after losing the temptation, Hawkeye has raised Lu Chen's threat level to the monster level. This level of powerhouse, even if the reward of more than 1 billion is given, it is not an exaggeration. The other side, Naval Headquarters, Marineford. In the Marshal's office, several figures with huge aura were sitting casually on the sofa in their strange sitting postures. Kuzan, Marshal Sengoku's voice sounded from behind the desk. Your defeat this time makes us very passive. Aokiji, who was sitting on the sofa, did not speak, and the green blindfold was over his eyes, as if he had fallen asleep. Akainu snorted coldly on the side. HMPH, even a single Blackbeard can't solve it, what else is there to say? At least in his eyes, he was just an ordinary member of the Whitebeard pirates. Not even the squad leader. Such a little pirate, but let their marine admiral fail. This is undoubtedly a very humiliating thing. Just after Akainu finished speaking, Aokiji, who seemed to be asleep, suddenly got up from the sofa and pushed up the blindfold. He said with serious eyes, Marshal D. Teach, that guy, it's definitely not easy. The opposite Sengoku frowned and said solemnly, I read your report, that guy is indeed worth noting, but, our main focus is now on New World, and it is difficult to mobilize strength to target him. To be precise, most of their energy was placed on the 4 Emperors. A combat power like Admiral should be on standby at any time to deal with the 4 Emperors' changes. It's impossible to stare at a Blackbeard all the time. Well, Kizaru on the side crossed Erlang's legs, shaved his nails with a knife, and pursed his lips exaggeratedly. Kuzan, I heard that you insisted on raising the bounty for that pirate called, what the hell, to 500 million. Aokiji looked at him, nodded and said, yes. Kizaru smiled. Why is that? Aokiji didn't change his face. That guy is also very dangerous, his strength is by no means lower than Blackbeard, or even stronger. Akainu on the side said solemnly, no matter what your strength is, if you are a pirate, you should sweep the trash can. Behind the desk opposite, Sengoku rubbed his temples with a headache. In other words, in the first half of this grand line, there are 2 big pirates who are not weaker than the Shichibukai level at the same time. All in all, Admiral can't move anymore. Sengoku thought for a while, then looked at the white-haired old man who was eating senbei not far away. Huh, Garp raised his head in confusion. What am I doing? With those words just now, he didn't listen to a word. Sengoku's forehead burst into blue veins, and when he got up, he punched him. You give me some seriousness. Got it, Garp responded, rolling his eyes, clearly thinking of something. He is very experienced in this kind of thing. For example, go to East Blue to kill a pirate. Obviously it only took a few days to go back and forth, but he was able to drag it out for half a month. It's like traveling by the way during a business trip. Time passed, and half a month passed in a blink of an eye. On the sea, the Golden Mary was driving as usual. During this time, everyone visited several islands, including Sky Island. As for a certain Thunder Fruit ability, God Enel, because he didn't know hockey, was beaten by Luffy by Tenka. After all, the current Luffy is much stronger than the original trajectory. Or, the entire Straw Hat crew has gotten too much stronger. They go to the dojo trials every day to challenge powerful enemies. Even from some enemies, I learned the way of hockey's practice. Suddenly, on the edge of the deck, Usopp, who was in charge of the lookout, shouted, "Hey! We are on a new island." Years ahead, an incomparably huge and prosperous island came into view. Nami quickly took out a chart and looked at it. Yes, this should be the capital of Seven Waters. 9. It's finally here, Usopp breathed a sigh of relief. The main purpose of their coming here is actually to repair the ship. This road was bumpy, especially at Sky Island. In order to rush to Sky Island, they took the Devil's Current, and were directly washed up to an altitude of tens of thousands of meters. So the whole Going Merry has been covered with scars to the point where it must be repaired. And it just so happens that the Seven Waters have the best boatmen in the entire sea. After half a sound, everyone finally landed on the island. Split up, Nami said sternly. Me and Luffy, Usopp and them are going to exchange gold for Bailey. Robin, Chopper, you go to buy supplies, and Sanji, buy food. As for Lu Chen. She turned her head and found that the place where Lu Chen was supposed to be standing was empty, and her face turned dark. I know, this guy does this every time. Every time he landed on the island, Lu Chen would disappear directly with his strange and unpredictable space ability. And no one knows what he did. At Alabasta, he brought Robin straight back. When he was on Sky Island, he went to loot a pile of gold and returned. It's the same this time. In fact, Lu Chen just didn't want to get involved in their training. He had previously made 3 chapters with the redhead, and would not let go of the tempering of Luffy's gang. So, at this moment, in a remote unmanned factory building. Good. The space was distorted, Lu Chen's figure suddenly appeared, and he glanced around. Well, here it is. 99. As he said that, he stretched out his hand and probed into the air, and a figure was directly lifted out of the different space by him. This is a tall man. Wearing a white head scarf, long earlobes and earrings. With a naked upper body and a thunder drum behind him, he looks like a strong man. Zero. It is the god of Sky Island, Enel. However, the difference is that at this time, a strange blood-colored pattern appeared in his eyes, which was slowly spinning. This is Lu Chen's illusion control. However, Enel's sense of seeing and hearing is very strong, and it can even form a heart network. Although there is no conquerors, illusions cannot hold him for long. So soon, a smear of scarlet appeared in Lu Chen's pupils, and then he reached out and lightly touched Enel's forehead. The next moment, in the illusion of the dojo, the two stood opposite each other. You, who are you? Enel's eyes widened suddenly, and he glanced around in a panic. Where is this? I remember. I seem to have lost. To a rubber boy. He remembered. Before he lost consciousness, it was that rubber boy's fist that remained in his field of vision. Chapter 109 God Enel. Battle. Aizen Sosuke. Unremarkable. Kyoko Suigetsu. In the illusion of the trial dojo. Lu Chen said calmly. The group you mentioned is the pirate group I belong to. So you're with that rubber boy. Enel's eyes widened and his teeth clenched. Crackling. Electric currents appeared involuntarily on his body, and even the thunder drum behind him also had thunder and lightning surging. The power that belongs to Thunder Fruit is stimulated. As if in an instant, he changed back to the god who was in charge of Sky Island. Save it. 99. Lu Chen just glanced at him, and in his scarlet eyes, there seemed to be 2 blood moons rising. I just want you to see the vastness of the world. 99. Just such a simple look. But let all the thunder and lightning on Enel dissipate away. There is no sign, as if the Thunder Fruit, which was hopeless and unfavorable before, has lost its effect at this moment. You, what have you done? Enel's pupils shrank suddenly, and he raised his hands in disbelief. My power. You haven't recognized the reality yet, Lu Chen said indifferently. You claim to be a god, but in the eyes of the real strong, you are only a weak person. Impossible. Then how do you explain that you were defeated by that kid Luffy? Enel's eyes became confused for a while. Yes, he was defeated. He claimed to be a god and was defeated by that rubber boy in his own territory, Sky Island. After a moment, Enel looked up. Why didn't you kill me? The opposite Lu Chen ignored him. Instead, he paced casually and said to himself, your strength has a lot of value to me, for example, to charge Pluton. Now that ferocious huge warship is parked in his Kamui space. As early as in Alabasta, Lu Chen had discovered that the ship, Pluton, was a living creature. It may have a ship spirit. Moreover, its terrifying firepower does not come from any artillery shells, but an unknown energy of 003. In other words, in order to use the Pluton, normally, it needs to be recharged. And at this point, the owner of Thunder Fruit, Enel, is undoubtedly the best tool person. So, it would be a pity to kill you, Lu Chen concluded. HMPH, Enel snorted coldly, I want to make me your subordinate, do I obey your orders? Never mind. He is God, the god who has never failed since he got Thunder Fruit. Although Luffy encountered Waterloo, the arrogance he had accumulated for a long time was not so easily dispelled. Hearing this, Lu Chen's mouth evoked an interesting smile. That's why I brought you to this place. Enel's brow furrowed deeply. What do you mean? Where is this place? Makes you realize how vast the world is. Lu Chen pointed to the black line in front of him. Have you seen that line? If you cross it, your strength will return to normal, but at the same time, there will be corresponding opponents. 9. An opponent. Enel's eyes narrowed slightly. You mean, you want me to fight someone? Lu Chen nodded. Not bad. 39. Hey, Enel sneered. Not all cats and dogs are qualified to be this uncle's opponent. It's just luck that the rubber boy won. As he said that, he walked forward with a proud face. This uncle will let you see what the power of God is. Lu Chen stood where he was and didn't change his face, and didn't say a word. Just calmly began to arrange opponents. Come on. 35. Enel stepped out of the black line. Immediately, thunder flashed again on his body, and electric snakes clambered up. The thunder drum behind him is also surrounded by light golden thunder and lightning, setting him off like a thunder god coming into the world. Yeah ha ha ha. Enel let out his own unique laugh. My power, it's back. At the same time, opposite him, a figure suddenly descended out of thin air. It was a man with short brown hair, brown eyes, a kind smile, and glasses. He was wearing a white robe with a black background and a knife on his waist. The eyes are gentle, and at first glance, it does not look like a character good at fighting. Its name is Aizen Sosuke. Yeah, ha ha ha, you're laughing to death. Enel laughed while holding his stomach, looking back at the black-clothed youth in the distance. You plan to make such a guy my opponent? From the appearance to the breath, there is no force at all. Even if this man hadn't had a knife around his waist, Enel would have treated him like a normal person. Lu Chen smiled meaningfully. If you can beat him, I can even let you go now. This is not a lie. After all, if Enel even Aizen can win. With Lu Chen's current strength, it is impossible to keep him. That's what you said. Enel's expression became slightly more serious. Immediately, he turned his head to look at Aizen opposite, and said regretfully, if you want to blame it, I will blame you for meeting the uncle. I will save your life as much as possible. Aizen smiled gently. Don't mind. Enel frowned, as if feeling something was wrong. But he didn't delve into it. Forget it, it is your honor to be a stepping stone for this uncle. Shoot. Suddenly, his figure disappeared in place, leaving only a wisp of electric arc. The next moment, Enel's tall figure has appeared behind Aizen, and a hand turned into lightning, directly piercing Aizen's chest. Tick-tock. Blood dripped to the ground down Enel's arm. Oh, my uncle's power is still invincible. A proud smile appeared on Enel's face. The psychological shadow of being defeated by that straw hat rubber boy was swept away. With just one blow, he solved this opponent. You seem to be very happy. Aizen's expression didn't change at all, and there was still a gentle smile on her face. You. Enel's pupils shrank suddenly. How could you? 35. He was clearly penetrated by his thunder and lightning, but he didn't change his face, and he still had the time to talk to himself. Aizen turned his head ACBD and taught earnestly like a teacher. Sometimes, what you see with your eyes, what you hear with your ears, and even what you touch will become the source of deception. Enel frowned. What do you mean? Before he finished speaking, his face suddenly became extremely stiff. In his chest, a piercing pain suddenly rose. In an instant, Enel's face became extremely pale, he stepped back a few steps, and half knelt on the ground. Puff. A mouthful of blood spurted out of his mouth. What exactly is going on? The next moment, Enel's vision seemed to blur for a moment. After he recovered, he saw that his right hand was inserted into his chest, and blood was gurgling down. What have I done? Enel's eyes widened, his eyes filled with incredulity. Obviously, the injury was caused by himself. But the problem is, the person he attacked just now was obviously the person on the opposite side. You seem a little confused. A gentle voice entered his ears, and Enel looked up quickly. Aizen on the opposite side was standing unscathed, not moving, still wearing that gentle smile on his face. What have you done to me? Enel's teeth clenched. I have clearly put you, 35. I said it before, Aizen had already taken out the knife from his waist, your 5 senses will deceive you. This is open black lens bracket Kyoka Suigetsu close black lens bracket. Even Shikai alone can sweep the bug level abilities of countless powerful souls in the Soul Society. Saying that, Aizen put the knife in his hand on the ground and added, of course, it is not necessary to deal with you. You be asterisk 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 D. Enel's eyes were furious, and suddenly he got up from the ground. Do you think you can beat me with this trick? Boom. 99. The violent thunder suddenly appeared. The dust on the ground rolls around, and waves of air are formed. His figure soared into the sky, suspended in midair, and streaks of blazing blue thunder appeared around him. I am God. Boom. A large number of thunders fell from the sky and slashed in the direction of Aizen. Why be so irritable? Aizen smiled and stretched out a finger. Anyway, your defeat is also doomed. 35. Che Lala. A large number of thunders seemed to hit an invisible wall and were slammed into the air. That unremarkable finger seemed to have become an insurmountable moat. Once, he also used one finger to take Ichigo's tenses on Jetsu. Kakaka. A wave of ultimate Reiatsu rose from Aizen's body. The surrounding space was distorted by this, as if it could not bear its power. The horror of its Reiatsu once overwhelmed the sixth blade Grimmjow with Reiatsu alone. This gentle and kind-hearted man has finally begun to reveal his hideous side. Enel's eyes were horrified, stepping in the air, his movements a little stiff for a while. What's wrong? Aizen smiled. Why don't you continue to attack? Enel turned his head abruptly and looked at the expressionless black-clothed youth in the distance. Only then did he understand why Chen didn't seem worried that he could win before. Obviously just an ordinary-looking enemy. Beneath its appearance, it hides an unfathomable terrifying power like a bottomless pit. Is this also in your calculations? Chen, on the other hand, gave him a polite smile. Laugh. Suddenly, a long knife pierced through Enel's heart. Gurgling blood dripped down the blade. Aizen appeared behind Enel with a peaceful face, holding the hilt in his hand, and slowly drew it out. Look, as I said, your defeat is already doomed. Cough. Enel turned his head with difficulty, and his eyes slowly fell into darkness. Chapter 110 Enel, who was abused to the point of doubting his life. Buster call. At the last minute, Chen appeared. When Enel opened his eyes again, he was already standing near Chen. The expression on his face was blank. Am I not dead? You were resurrected, Chen said calmly. Quote exclamation mark quote. Enel's eyes widened suddenly, and it was only then that he finally came back to his senses. He hurriedly turned his head and looked into the dojo. Where was that guy just now? A smile appeared on the corner of Chen's mouth. His mission is over, so, do you understand your weakness now? Weak. Enel's eyes were heavy and his teeth were clenched. I am a god and the strongest. That guy just won me with some weird tricks. 995. Although it says so, but being defeated twice in a row has begun to shake his proud heart. It doesn't matter. Chen spoke very well, and the smile on his face did not change at all. I have enough opponents for you. HMPH, is that so? Enel's eyes flickered slightly, although his mouth was hard. But no matter what he thought, inner pride would not allow him to back down. Go ahead. Chen pointed to beyond the black line, step over, and your power and opponent will appear. Who is afraid of whom? Enel sullenly walked away. This time, his opponent was an old acquaintance. It was a bald-headed man in a cape and a strange attire. That's right, it's Saitama who was once called out by Luffy. I'm going to hit 10. Boom. With a loud noise like a nuclear explosion, a 100-meter-wide, bottomless pit appeared in the dojo. What 200 million volts, what elemental thunder incarnation? Under the absolute power of this super specification, everything has turned into nothingness. There is no suspense. This is called, one shot, all-powerful. A second later, Enel's figure reappeared in front of Chen. But this time, the expression on his face was obviously even more dazed. Is that really human? No, does that kind of power really exist in this world? Obviously, the bald man just left a deep impression on him. In other words, it left an indelible shadow. Chen's expression was calm, not surprised at all. Have you taken it? 99. Dissatisfied. Okay, go ahead. 35. Soon, Enel stepped forward again. In less than 10 seconds, he even turned the entire dojo battle area into fly ash. This time, his opponent is named Vegeta. Did you take it? I don't accept it. With a stubborn stride, Enel crossed the black line again. This time, his opponent is named Uchiha Madara. And, it's a pair of Rinnegan's Six Paths Madara. In just a moment, with Enel's confused expression, he was smashed into a sieve by 4 invisible shadows of the wheel tomb and the boundary. Did you take it? Still the same question. But this time Enel choked as soon as he opened his mouth. Obviously, he has been abused to the point of mental breakdown. In this fight, he was beaten in seconds when he entered the field, and he couldn't even get his hands on it. Who can stand it? Especially with Enel's mentality. You must know that he has been on Sky Island for so many years, but he is a self-proclaimed god. No one can defeat him, and no one can defy him. This kind of glory will definitely bring a proud state of mind. As a result, he was knocked to the ground all of a sudden, and was repeatedly pressed on the ground, rubbed and ravaged. This is undoubtedly devastating for his blow. Seeing this, Chen raised a wicked smile on the corner of his mouth. Don't speak. Then I'll assume that you still refuse to accept it. He knew that this guy's psychological defense was on the verge of final collapse. He just wants to completely defeat his psychological defense line through aggressive tactics. Enel's face flushed a little, but he didn't know what to say. In the end, he still took a proud and stubborn step and crossed the black line again. Boom. With a deafening explosion, Enel ended the battle. No, it should be said that this is a trip to be beaten. When he was resurrected again, the whole person lay on the ground in a trance, with a look of doubt about life. Am I really that weak? In the past, Enel wouldn't even think about it. At this time, when he said this sentence, there was a strong sense of self-doubt in his tone. Being able to say this, at least proves that you have begun to see your own strength. Chen on the side chuckled and said, so, do you want to become stronger? Enel. Become stronger. Hearing this, Enel's godless eyes began to gradually brighten. Can I get stronger? Of course, Chen said as it should be. Having seen so many powerhouses who are far stronger than you, do you still think you have reached the limit? Enel was silent for a long time, and then he said, what about the price? Didn't I tell you, your power is still useful to me? While speaking, Chen snapped his fingers. The illusion was suddenly shattered, and after the world was spinning, the two appeared in Kamui's different space. In this open space, the only thing that exists is that monstrous warship. Enel looked around. Where is this place? When he was imprisoned by Lu Chen before, he was under the control of Mangekyo's illusion. So I don't know anything about the situation in different spaces. Do you know what this is? Lu Chen asked with his hands on his back. What? A ship? Enel frowned, somewhat confused. This is the Pluton, one of the 3 ancient weapons, Lu Chen said calmly. Pluton. Enel's eyes gradually widened. That battleship that claims to be able to destroy the world. Lu Chen glanced at him unexpectedly. I thought you were in Sky Island and wouldn't know these things. Enel pouted. Sky Island also has historical records and legends. Lu Chen shrugged. All in all, your task is to charge this big guy, and as a reward, I will give you a way to become stronger. Enel took a deep breath. I still have a choice. What do you say? So be it. After a long day of work and placement of Enel in Pluton's energy room, the matter was finally temporarily settled. The power of Pluton to flatten the island is not without price. The horror of the energy it consumes is by no means easy to store up. A Logia-capable person like Enel, or an elemental Logia-capable person, is undoubtedly the most suitable candidate for charging. In the abandoned factory, the space suddenly distorted, and Lu Chen stepped out. He glanced at the sky outside. At this point in time, Luffy and the others should already be at Eni's lobby. After thinking about it, he decided to take a look. After all, Buster Call is no joke. Even the entire Eni's lobby will be destroyed. In the original track, if Going Merry's ship Spirit hadn't arrived in time to rescue, Luffy's group would have all sunk to the bottom of the sea. After a while, Zero. Ask for flowers katakana middle dot. The shore of the 7 waters. Lu Chen's figure suddenly stepped out of thin air. At this time, it was raining heavily, and huge waves rolled in the ocean ahead. On the shore, a dilapidated ship was lying on its side, the straw hat skull flag prominently above. Going Merry. A man in a suit with short blue-purple hair was holding a repair tool and was repairing the ship. Lu Chen. A gentle voice suddenly sounded, and the voice seemed to go directly to the bottom of my heart. Who are you? The man in the suit turned back suddenly, with a look of doubt and vigilance. Don't be nervous. Lu Chen waved his hand. I'm a member of the Straw Hat Pirates, and Mary also knows me. Mary. What's the name of this ship? The man in the suit was silent for a moment. I am Iceberg, the manager of this city of 7 waters. After speaking, he looked at the hull of the Mary and said, it wants to set sail. I know. Lu Chen nodded, stepped forward, and touched Mary's bow. Lu Chen, I'm going to help Luffy and them. The gentle voice resounded in my heart again. I think, the last sailing. Single quote. Lu Chen paused and said calmly, it won't be the last time, my eyes can see your spiritual body. 99. Oh, this also means that he can operate it to a certain extent. Thanks. Quote. After thanking him, Mary stopped talking. The ship spirit can't communicate with people all the time. To be precise, it only has a preliminary awareness, and this awareness is still very thin. Phew, it's fixed. Bingshan put away the tool and wiped the sweat from his forehead. At this moment, a big wave hit and rolled the Golden Mary back into the sea. Lu Chen also went with the flow and stood on the sheep's head at the bow. Let's go. 39. After speaking, he also turned his head and nodded to the iceberg on the shore. For a time, Going Merry drove towards the front of the sea at an unprecedented speed. There is no need for someone to steer, and there is no need for any wind direction, ride the wind and waves, and go forward. The other side, Eni's lobby, the bridge of hesitation. Dozens of huge warships have surrounded this place, and several vice admirals stood at the bows of several warships with indifferent expressions. At this time, Luffy and others were all forced to the bridge of hesitation. The Eni's lobby not far away has been completely reduced to a sea of fire. This is Buster Call, indiscriminate and destructive attack on the signaled area. Used to completely wipe out everything in an area that threatens world government rule. Ha ha. Nami gasped, bruised all over, it's over, the escape boat was blown up. Zoro, who was not far away, slashed a marine with a knife, and his expression was equally solemn, I can't escape. Although their strength is stronger than the original trajectory. But right now they don't have a boat, so they can't just fly away, right? After a stalemate, several vice admiral finally ordered, don't leave the life of Robin, the son of the devil, prepare for the bombardment. 5. Yes. For a while, the atmosphere seemed to freeze. Soon, the barrels of a large warship were aimed at the bridge of hesitation. Boom. The smoke of gunpowder rose, and the cannonballs swept across the sky. Just at this juncture, the space in the sky suddenly distorted. The shells disappeared out of thin air. The faces of Nami and the others showed a look of surprise for the rest of their lives. Lu Chen. Chapter 111A slap in the face of Marine and the world government. Broken Mary, Garp strikes. In the sky, a young man in black stepped out of thin air. For a time, the whole area seemed a little quiet. Several Marine vice admirals subconsciously stepped forward and walked to the edge of the bow. It's you. Ghost Spider bit a cigarette in his mouth and narrowed his eyes. The new 500 million reward criminal, Lu Chen. On the other boat, the squinting vice admiral with a cigar in his mouth also said, Aokiji Admiral said that you were a great threat. Stallo Berry also pulled out the 2 long knives around his waist. I have been thinking before, since Straw Hat Crew is here, why are you not here, and now you finally show up. There were also Flying Squirrels and Doberman, who also stepped forward. The 5 vice admirals all released their auras, and vaguely surrounded the figure in the sky. You guys, the real target is me. Chen glanced down at them and asked calmly. The long hair behind the ghost spider's head danced slowly, like tentacles. It's just a target. 35. Then, suddenly, he ordered, prepare for the bombardment. Take down the Straw Hat crew, and without boats, they have nowhere to run. 35. After speaking, the ghost spider turned to look at the figure in black in the sky. As for this person, leave it to 5 of us to deal with. Under Buster call, everything will turn to fly ash. No one can stop it. 003, yes. The soldiers on the warship responded in unison. On the bridge of hesitation, the expressions of Nami and the others became tense again. Damn, we have nowhere to escape. Both sides of the bridge have been broken by artillery fire, and now the rest of the foothold is the pillar under their feet. At this time, if Marines set fire to them, Chen would be dragged again. Then they are really dead. In midair, Chen didn't care about it, just calmly looked at the sea below. Crash. 99. In the sound of violent water flow, a ship that seemed to be full of wrecks broke through the water and rushed under the bridge of hesitation. A pirate flag with a straw hat and skull swaying in the wind. It's the Mary. Usopp exclaimed in surprise, it's coming to pick us up. Great. Nami's expression also appeared happy again. This time it is really saved. Quick, jump off. Robin shouted too. For a time, everyone on the bridge of hesitation jumped towards the sea. Boom. Immediately after that, bursts of artillery booms sounded. A large number of artillery shells fell on this last bridge of hesitation, the earth and stones flew up, and the smoke suddenly rose. It can be said that Luffy and the others had just escaped on the front feet, and the bridge of hesitation on the back feet had already been blown up. What happened to that ship? The ghost spider's face suddenly turned gloomy. How did it break through the blockade of so many warships and break in? The soldier on the side was sweating coldly on his forehead. Report. We did not detect the existence of this ship. Damn it. The ghost spider spit out the cigarette in his mouth and roared. Turn the bow of the boat for me, and make sure to sink their boat. Yes. After giving the order, the ghost spider looked up at the black figure in the sky. What came into view was only a pair of indifferent blood-colored eyes. With that expression, it seemed that their pursuit was useless. Really, under the bombardment of more than 10 large warships, the pirate ship that looked like it was about to fall apart at any time showed an extremely strange and agile trajectory. Abruptly dodged a large number of shells. That is by no means a sailing route that can be steered by humans. In the end, Franky on the ship used a wind cannon. Abruptly, the whole ship flew into the sky and disappeared from everyone's sight. The entire sea outside the Enies lobby fell into silence. All the marine generals had extremely ugly faces, and their expressions were so gloomy that they seemed to be dripping with water. Under Buster call, a full 5 headquarters vice admiral led dozens of marine warships. And there are the people of CP9. They also surrounded each other on the Enies lobby. They even destroyed the Enies lobby, one of the 3 major institutions directly under the world government. Under such circumstances, how could such a fledgling pirate group escape? When this matter spread, from Marine and the world government, they did not hesitate to give them a slap in the face. Moreover, this slap is so loud that the whole sea can hear it. Call. The ghost spider let out a long breath, as if to calm down. After that, he looked up at the sky, his eyes were firm. At least, keep this most dangerous one. The other 4 vice admiral also made gestures to do it. However, in the sky, the space suddenly distorted, and Uzumaki sucked Chen's figure directly into it. What was left for a few vice admirals was a half-smiling look, and an inexplicable, hey. Saw. In the air, the cold light passed by, but nothing was cut. The ghost spider took the knife and fell back to the bow, his face became extremely gloomy, and the corners of his eyes kept twitching. Damn pirates. This time, they were played thoroughly. Boom blah blah blah. Just then, the phone bug on his wrist rang. The ghost spider connected, and the phone worm turned into a look like Aokiji. I already understand the situation on your side. Aokiji paused for a while, then continued. This time, we were completely defeated. After listening to it with a sullen expression, Ghost Spider couldn't help but ask, why didn't the headquarters send Admiral to come for reinforcements? Knowing that there is a pirate with a huge threat of 500 million bounties. However, only 5 of their vice admiral were dispatched. It's not to be underestimated, the Ghost Spider just knows that the pirate named Chen once fought against Admiral Aokiji. Although he doesn't know Chen's strength, he is very aware of his own admiral's strength. Let alone 5 vice admirals, how could 15 be compared to 1 admiral? In this case, not sending admiral reinforcements is undoubtedly a big mistake in decision-making in the eyes of Ghost Spider. Aokiji also paused for a while before saying, actually, the headquarters has already dispatched Garp vice admiral, but he may have been delayed for some reason on the way. Hearing the word Garp, the corners of Ghost Spider's eyes twitched fiercely. As Marine, he certainly knew how strong the legendary vice admiral was. That is by no means weaker than Admiral's terrifying combat power, even stronger. However, at the same time, he also knew very well how out of character this man was. After a long silence, the Ghost Spider was still Kaido, I see. Immediately, the phone hangs up. The Enies lobby campaign ended with the defeat of their Marines. The other side, the capital of 7 waters, in the sea on the shore. Great, Nami and others are celebrating their escape from birth. Sudden, kakaka, a burst of cracking sound came. The next moment, Going Mary's hull was directly broken from the middle and split into two. The expressions of everyone on the deck suddenly froze, and their feet were almost unsteady. Finally, is this the point? Usopp, wearing the Sniper King mask, muttered, Mary. He knew that the life of the ship had come to an end. There are countless horrible climates on the Grand Line that no ordinary boat can withstand. Otherwise, Roger, the Pirate King, would not have come to the Seven Waters to find the legendary boatman Tom, and built the legendary Oro Jackson. At this moment, a gentle voice resounded in the hearts of everyone. Everyone, thank you for meeting you, so that I can accompany you to complete so many adventures. Mary, is that you, Mary? Usopp was suddenly excited. Nami and the others also looked at each other in dismay. This is the ship spirit, Franky said with a serious expression on the side. Is there really such a thing? Robin looked at the hull under his feet with complicated eyes. Suddenly, the space on the deck was distorted, and Chen stepped out of thin air. Seeing him appear, Usopp rushed over. Chen, please, save Mary. You are so amazing, there must be a way, right? 99. Chen pushed him away calmly, and then said, if I want to repair this ship, I can't do it. The faces of everyone collapsed. Especially Usopp, there are already tears of courage in his eyes. But if it's just keeping Mary's spirit, I can try. Hearing this, everyone's expressions couldn't hold back. You finished it all at once. All in all, let's put the Mary back ashore first. 35 Chen shrugged and said, you have to find a new ship before you can transfer the spirit of the ship. Quote. After a while, everyone is already in a restaurant in the capital of Seven Waters, feasting. By the way, Chen, Nami suddenly smiled and pointed to a tall man with short blue hair not far away. This is our new friend, Franky. 55. Chen turned his head and glanced at him. Hello, my name is Chen. 35. Franky scratched his head. Hi 1.3. Before Annie's lobby, thank you for your help. 5. If it wasn't for this black-clothed youth, they would have been wiped out by the first round of artillery fire. It should be. Chen smiled slightly. After all, I'm also a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. Really? Usopp on the side said helplessly. I don't know where you went before. If you were there, we wouldn't be so passive. Chen shrugged. Don't care about these details, it's not too bad now. At this time, boom, there was a loud noise, and the wall on the side of the restaurant was suddenly broken. Sunlight came in from outside the wall. A tall figure walked slowly from outside the hole in the wall. A terrifying sense of oppression came, making everyone's eyes solemn. Finally found you guys, the man grinned. At this time, everyone could see what he looked like. This is a tall old man with short gray and white hair. There is a scar on his left eye and he wears Marine's Justice cloak. Marine Legends Vice Admiral Monkey D. Garp. Chapter 112. Lord C and Sun Shao. New bounty, some happy and some sad. The new ship is completed. It's really a good meal for the old man. Garp stood on his hips and stood in the hole in the wall, scanning the people in the restaurant. Garp Vice Admiral, Nami, Zoro, Sanji, Usopp and others all subconsciously took 2 steps back. Compared to other people, those from East Blue are far more familiar with the name, Garp. The people of East Blue probably don't know who Marshal Marine is. It may not even be known who leads the world government. But they will never fail to know who Garp, the patron saint of East Blue, is. If it weren't for such a piece of combat power ceiling, go back and stroll around from time to time. How could East Blue be the weakest sea? You know, that is out of the sea area of One Piece. Step. With a strong sense of oppression, Garp slowly stepped into the restaurant. And for the first time, his eyes were locked on Chen, who was dressed in black. This old man has been drifting for half a month, and finally found you. Chen's mouth twitched slightly. Are you sure? It takes half a month to find me. How long did it take for 5 vice admirals to arrive at the Ennie's lobby from the headquarters? As a result, this old man is better, half a month. At a glance, you can tell that most of them are wandering to other places to play. Garp coughed lightly. It's not important. All in all, you have to fight with the old man first, otherwise the old man at Sengoku will not be able to explain it. 39. Suddenly, his eyes saw a straw hat figure that was shrinking back. For a time, the task of Chen was directly forgotten. Stop, Garp yelled. Luffy, you don't even say hello when you see me. Luffy looked depressed. I wanted to hide, but I didn't expect to be found. The next moment, Garp rushed over and lifted Luffy up with a displeased expression on his face. HMPH, you kid, what you did this time is not trivial, even Ennie's lobby was leveled. Woo, Luffy struggled stubbornly. Next, it is naturally a classic scene of Yi Si Sun Shao. The noise of the two made the whole restaurant uneasy. Seeing this, Chen disappeared in place without making a sound. If it is not necessary, he absolutely does not want to fight the monsters of this world. After all, these monsters are all little powerhouses of immune to death, and it's basically unlikely that there will be any results in the end. Especially someone like Garp, who reached the ceiling purely relying on taijutsu and haki. Its level of resistance, even among the monsters, is definitely the top. Maybe in the end, Eternal Mangekyo's pupil power is exhausted, and the other party is still alive and well. So, it's better to let the other party focus on Luffy. Soon, after Garp vented his Love, for his grandson. He turned his head and found that the black-clothed youth had disappeared without a trace. B******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** The old man is careless, and I'll be told to death by that Sengoku guy next time. 5. Well, wait, Garp thought for a while, then suddenly smiled again. In this way, my task is not completed, can I go back later? 35. For a while, he even thought about which island to go to for vacation. This divine turn made everyone in the restaurant stunned. A few days later, capital of 7 waters, number 1 dock. 2 ships, one large and one small, are staying in this dock. Among them, the smaller one was naturally the Going Merry, which was completely broken in two at this time. The larger one is a new ship that Franky is in charge of building. When Franky held a sledgehammer and kept hitting the big ship in front of him. It looks like it's almost finished. Chen folded his arms and looked at the ship in front of him. Hey, you have to trust my skills, Franky grinned. Also, the keel of this ship is made from the branches of the treasure tree atom, and it will never be worse than the one from One Piece. 5. Then it's my turn, Chen nodded. Franky was stunned when he heard this. Is there really a way? That is the spirit of the ship. Even I don't understand it. No matter what kind of spirit it is, it's just a spirit body, Chen said, with a scarlet glow in his eyes. As long as it is a spiritual body, then I can still try it. 39. In his sight, a vague figure was standing on the bow of the Mary. That's the ship spirit. Come on, Chen's eyes filled with huge pupil power, guiding the ship spirit away from the Mary and towards the large ship beside him. After a while, the ship spirit completely integrated into the big ship. A gentle voice resounded in my heart. Thank you. Chen didn't speak, just waved his hand, turned and walked out of the dock. Chen, come and see. As soon as he walked out, he heard the excited voice of Chopper in the distance. Not only Chopper, Luffy, Nami, etc. are all here, and everyone has a smile on their face. Chen raised his eyebrows, walked over and asked, what's wrong? All of us have been rewarded. Nami smiled proudly. This is the wanted order sent by Franky's younger brother just now, let's watch it together. 35. In her hand, she is holding a stack of wanted notices, a total of 8. Chen also showed some interest. Let's have a look then. 9. This is the first time that the Straw Hat crew has collectively been rewarded. While speaking, Nami had already spread out 8 wanted notices on the ground. The Straw Hat, Luffy, the bounty, 300 million Baileys. Woo, Luffy jumped up in excitement. Pirate Hunter, Zoro, bounty, 120 million Bailey. 5. Hey, Zoro's mouth curled into a smile. Little thief cat. Nami, the bounty is 16 million Baileys. Wait a minute. Nami held his cheeks, his eyes full of disbelief. This one, why does it look like a marriage order? 35. In the photo on the wanted notice, Nami is wearing a bikini, combing her hair sideways, and looking in the direction of the camera with a playful face. Pet, Chopper who loves cotton candy, bounty, 50 Bailey. Ah, Chopper burst into tears. 550. Son of the Devil, Nico Robin, bounty, 80 million Bailey. 39. Robin smiled, not caring about it. Blackfoot, Sanji, failed photo acquisition, bounty, 77 million Bailey. 99. Is this me? Sanji hugged his head with an unacceptable look on his face, and slowly fell to his knees. There was even a wailing in his mouth. It's over, now, I will be laughed at by the ladies all over the world. 35. The photo is a portrait. Chubby face, blonde broom head, dull eyes, big lips, and a cigarette. Although somewhat similar, but in appearance. It can't be said that they are not alike at all, it can only be said that they are two people who have nothing to do with each other. Sniper King, the bounty is 30 million Bailey. Pictured here is Usopp wearing a mask. The last one, red eyes, Chen, bounty, 10 billion. 35. Everyone's eyes widened, expressions full of incredible. Pirates with a bounty of over 1 billion. Even the new world placed in the second half of the Grand Line is definitely a big pirate who can dominate one side. Chen's expression was calm. In fact, 1 billion is already a bounty at the Emperor's deputy level. It is very likely that this bounty will not change for a long time in the follow-up. Because further promotion means that there is another Emperor on the sea. Moreover, he is the Emperor, publicly recognized by the world government and Marine. However, this title, Red Eye, Chen smacked his mouth helplessly. Because, this title always reminded him of a female assassin who used the demon sword Murasama. But think about it, every time he fights, he will urge the Mangekyo Sharingan. It is reasonable to be given such a title. All in all. After reading these bounties, it can be said that a few people are happy and some people are sad. The most worrying is undoubtedly Chopper and Sanji. These two people, one is worried about their outrageous bounty, and the other is worried about their outrageous painting 003. Okay, get ready to leave, Chen said suddenly. For Franky, it should be almost finished. 35. Hearing this, everyone's eyes widened. Really? So fast? By the way, where's the Mary? 35. Chen smiled and said, I have transferred the spirit of the Mary to the new ship. Great. Everyone showed a look of surprise that could not be concealed, and high-fived to celebrate. After half a sound, the shore of the Seven Waters. A luxurious pirate ship at least twice the size of Going Merry was parked quietly. The lion-like prow of the sun, the long deck, the huge double mast. Oh huh, everyone stood on the shore, exclaimed in amazement, and rushed towards the boat impatiently. Great, the lawn on the deck can make a garden. 39. There are slides to play. 35. There's actually an aquarium in here. And a library. What a luxurious kitchen, and my favorite fridge freezer. An exclamation sounded from the boat. The structure of this ship is far more complete than that of Going Merry. The cabin alone is divided into 3 floors. It's almost there, Chen reminded aloud, sitting on the new side of the boat. It's time to call Franky. 39. Yes, Nami was stunned. That guy has also been offered a bounty, and his younger brothers have asked us to take him to sail together. Interestingly, Franky's boys suggested that they had better take Franky away by force. Obviously, these younger brothers are very aware of how awkward their eldest brother's temperament is. I'll go, Chen thought for a while, then stepped into the space and disappeared. He is familiar with tying people up. Chapter 113 Franky gets on the ship and gives Lousy a level 10. Beerus, God of Destruction. Power to choose. Just under a minute, Chen had reappeared on the deck with Franky's collar in his hand. What are you doing? Let me go. Chen casually threw him on the deck. Okay, let's set sail. 95. Hee hee, Nami's face rose with a wicked smile. It really belongs to you, Chen. Saying that, she turned around and ran into the cabin. Soon, the new ship began to start, and the hull moved in the direction of the sea. HMPH, I'm not going with you, Franky said angrily, I have reasons to stay here. A jet was suddenly cut open under his feet, and he was about to fly directly back to the shore. From behind, Chen's voice sounded leisurely, are you really going to go back? This is the boat you built by yourself, and perhaps, it's your only chance to go out to sea. At this time, other people on the deck also turned their attention. Come with us, Franky. Woo, the boat you built surprised us all. We're already companions, aren't we? Franky wanted to sternly refuse, but when the words came to his mouth, he found that some words could not be said. It's not that he doesn't want to go to sea, in fact, he just can't let go of his little brothers. Just then, on the shore, all the younger brothers of the Franky family came out, waving their hands and shouting in unison, brother. Good luck. Franky's face suddenly darkened. You guys, are you cursing me? Immediately, the younger brothers on the shore were silent for a while, and then continued to shout, big brother. Good luck. 5. It's almost there, Franky folded his hands and snorted coldly. How is it? Behind him, Chen said with a smile, have you made up your mind now? HMPH, stop being self-righteous, Franky wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, put on his sunglasses, and grinned at the corners of his mouth. You laymen who can only mend holes, it's too pitiful that such a luxurious ship doesn't have a boatman. 99. I can't help it, lousy Franky will be your ship's boatman. Everyone on the deck laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, great, I have a new partner. You are welcome, Franky. Very well, get ready to sail. The next day, on the sea, the new ship, Thousand Sunny, is sailing on the sea. On the lawn of the deck, everyone was very quiet, because at this time their consciousness was in an illusion. Trial Dojo. Franky, who came here for the first time, was looking at Zoro who was fighting in the distance with a shocked face. What on earth is it? Luffy picked his nose. Didn't we tell you? This is the place created by Chen, although I don't know what happened, but I can fight with a lot of powerful people. Nami reluctantly added. This is an illusion, so we won't really die or get injured, we can fight as much as we like and learn a lot of fighting experience. The others on the side also began to talk to Franky about science. Not only combat experience, they even learned Haki's way of training. Franky sat down directly on the ground and thought about it. That is to say, you can fight any strong person here, and even include the strong ones from Otherworld. When he said this, his tone was full of disbelief. But the fact is in front of you, and you have to believe it if you don't believe it. Jung. At this moment, there was a sound of a knife ringing in the distance in the dojo. The long knife was covered with a thin layer of jet black arm color, crossing the neck of the enemy. After a battle, Zoro finally cut off the head of a level 6 enemy. Immediately, the enemy's corpse dissipated as a light spot. Zoro's injuries were also directly smoothed out and returned to a state of prosperity. Franky calmed down, I probably understand what's going on. 39. Chen, who was not far away, smiled and said, so, do you want to give it a try? Hey, of course. Franky stood up from the ground and strode forward, 1 to 10 grades. Lousy as Franky, give Lousy a 10th grade. 99. Oh, Nami, Usopp and others all cast admiring glances at him. Even Zoro, who came back, looked at him with a faint respect in his eyes. For a time, Franky felt that his heart had been greatly satisfied, and even his walking posture was a bit arrogant, and his chin was slightly raised. Only Chen's expression was weird. Franky's appearance reminded him of Enel before. When that guy stepped into the dojo, he was so confident. Tread. Franky stepped out of the black line. At the same time, opposite him, a figure began to appear out of thin air. This is a cat standing upright, still wearing gorgeous clothes and wearing a gold ring on his arm. This is God of Destruction, Beerus. Oh, Franky's mouth grinned. Is my opponent a cat? Ha ha ha. Human. Beerus folded his arms and looked at Franky with interest. No, transforming people. Franky raised his hips. That's right. Lousy is the transformer. Franky, remember Lousy's name. Beerus waved his hand casually. A mere human, it's not worthy of me to remember. Huh, Franky's face full of black lines. How can a cat talk? Beerus seemed tired and yawned. I'm a little sleepy, so. Humans, kneel down, otherwise, I will grant you destruction. Franky grimaced exaggeratedly. UB asterisk 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 D, 35. Kakaka. His voice came to an abrupt end, the entire body was twisted by an invisible force, and the steel body creaked. You. Franky's eyes changed drastically, struggling, and even speaking became difficult. What did you do? 99. Beerus raised his hand with indifferent eyes. At the top of its fingers, a dark light condensed. The terrifying power contained in it makes people feel frightened just by seeing it. Never mind, destroy it. Boom. With a deafening loud noise, the entire dojo, except for the invincible zone, turned into nothingness. The next second, Franky had reappeared in the invincible zone. Zoro said immediately. Don't be confused, you have been resurrected. Franky blinked and scratched his head. Oh. Usopp on the side with emotion. However, you are really brave, and you actually challenged the opponent of level 10. 35. Nami also said. The dojo can only be resurrected 3 times a day, and among us, only that guy Luffy will challenge a 10th level opponent. Franky was silent for a moment. For a time, he suddenly remembered the incomparably confident state of mind when he walked across the black line. Looking back now, I can only be glad that I was a transformed person, otherwise my face would have turned red. At this time, Chen said, you guys should finish today's trial first, and then choose a template for Franky. Nami suddenly said, oh yes, Franky doesn't have a custom training plan yet. Backquote. Huh, Franky froze for a moment. What do you mean? Reintroduction, Chen said with a smile. My position is, trainer. 5. Huh, Franky looked blank. What's the position of a trainer? He had heard of combatants, ship doctors, navigators, boatmen and even helmsmen. But this is the first time I have heard of a trainer. Simply put, my duty is to make you stronger, Chen said, spreading his hands. As long as you complete the corresponding training plan, you will be able to acquire the corresponding abilities. Get stronger. Franky's eyes lit up slightly. Can you get as strong as the cat just now? That cat left a very deep impression on him. In other words, it is a very huge psychological shadow. After that terrifying power broke out, for the first time in his life, he truly felt his own insignificance. It's like an ant, compared to a mountain. No, the gap is bigger than that. Quote dot 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 single quote quote. Chen was at a loss as to how to answer. That's the god of destruction, Beerus. You can destroy the existence of a planet at will with the touch of a finger. It looks like a cat, but it is the supreme god who is in charge of the destruction of the entire universe. Can't you? Franky's face was clearly disappointed. Chen paused, then continued. Actually, it's possible. Of course, he can't guarantee how big the probability is. Great. Franky regained his confidence. I'll make it. After half a sound. It's good everyone finally completed today's dojo trial. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the entire trial dojo was suddenly replaced by a huge arena. Everyone appeared in the auditorium of the arena. This is too real. Franky stroked the seat of the audience seat with a shocked face. Is it really a fantasy? Of course, Usopp on the side looked like someone who came over. We have all met many times. Not far away, Chen reminded. Franky, next, I will let you watch 4 battles, which are also 4 templates. You need to choose what you want. Look carefully, and after reading it, tell me your choice. Franky looked straight, nodded and said, I understand. Then, let's start. Chen snapped his fingers again. Snapped. A huge figure suddenly descended into the arena out of thin air. It was a huge mech. The big steel wings on his back and the 2 lightsabers on his hands immediately attracted everyone's attention. Franky murmured, this is. Chen introduced calmly. Gundam, Strike Freedom. Chapter 114 Gundam, Strike Freedom. Mecha, is the romance of a man. The whole body is made of steel alloy. Height 18.88 meters. The skin of the armor is white, and the steel wings behind it are blue. Knee joints, ankle joints, fists, and eyes are all golden. 2 purple-red lightsabers were quietly held in their hands. This is an absolute weapon of war, with high technology and violent aesthetics. In the audience, Franky was already fascinated. What a beautiful creation. 5. As a transformed man, the attraction of this kind of thing to him is self-evident. Chen on the side said calmly, Strike Freedom Gundam, the core combat power of the Klein faction. Its codename is ZGM-FX-20A Strike Freedom. This airframe integrates countless cutting-edge technologies. A beam shield with an iron-clad defense, armor-cutting technology and radiance transmitters bring unparalleled mobility. PS Armored Internal Skeleton brings super driving force and terrifying firepower of a total of 15 artillery pieces. And it is equipped with a super advanced deuteron engine that uses a nuclear engine and a deuteron beam charging system, and so on. It can be said that this body almost represents the most cutting-edge technology in this field. Except for a few bug-level theories such as Inverse A, DX, and God Gundam. Strike Freedom basically represents the word invincible. Golem. Just hearing these words from Lu Chen, Franky couldn't help but start to swallow. This kind of thing, can I really have it? Of course, Lu Chen shrugged, this is the template I picked out for you. Wait, Franky suddenly thought of something. Can something like this be acquired through training? Yes, 003, Lu Chen smiled slightly. It's just that the more powerful the ability is, the more difficult the training required will be. Franky blinked. How difficult is such a powerful organism? Just hearing those terrifying body unit configurations, he could already vaguely imagine how terrifying this thing was. It doesn't matter, these unit configurations can be acquired one by one. 35. Lu Chen glanced at him and said, anyway, you are transforming people, aren't you? Every time you get a unit configuration, your strength should be able to improve by leaps and bounds. Not to mention the powertrain and propulsion system. Those weapons alone are enough to make Franky's strength leap to a new level. The destructive power of the two is not in the same dimension at all. It makes sense. Franz glanced at his device, then looked up at the super mecha in the arena, and suddenly felt a strong sense of loss. There is no harm without contrast. People are more dead than people, and goods are thrown away. In the past, he always felt that his transformation was very powerful, and he was even proud of it. But now when I see a body of this level, my brain almost shuts down on the spot. Actually, you are also very powerful, Lu Chen said suddenly. Ah, is that so? Franky raised his head and looked at him, his eyes filled with disbelief. Isn't it? Lu Chen smiled and said, you must know that you are the first person I have ever seen that can use coke as an energy source. This setting is actually unscientific no matter how you look at it. Coke alone can generate such a huge amount of energy. Whether it is daily actions or intense battles, no matter how much consumption, as long as there is coke, Franky can easily complete it. Such an outrageous energy system. In Lu Chen's view, it is even more terrifying than the super advanced deuteron energy system of ACBD, Strike Freedom. It completely ignores the settings of the laws of physics and makes no sense at all. But after thinking about the world's more unreasonable abilities, Lu Chen was relieved. For example, a person with the ability of childish fruit. That terrifying ability like a rule trap is equally unreasonable. It can be said that the ability of this world is like this. On the other hand, Franky, after listening to Lu Chen's words, scratched his head with one hand and laughed. Ha 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 ha, I'm not as good as you said. It's really cool. On the railing next to him, Luffy put a hand on his forehead and looked at the mecha in the field with glowing eyes. Indeed, Sanji also looked in amazement. The cigarette in his mouth was almost exhausted and he didn't notice. Usopp and Chopper are also looking forward to it. Even Zoro was moved. So, mecha is a man's romance, a romance that will last forever. Who never imagined that he could control a Gundam and fly in the sky and universe when he was young? In the roar of the engine, the roaring process of energy particle condensation is impossible for any man to refuse. Lu Chen thought for a while and said, the most precious thing about the Assault Liberty should be the 8 steel wings behind it. That's the EQFU-3X Super Dragoon motorized wing. It is equipped with the bright transmitters, propulsion system, which is enough to make the speed of this body break through the speed of sound. 35. Of course, its internal super advanced deuteron energy system is also a mixture of nuclear engines and deuteron beam charging systems, and its value is also not inferior. 5. All in all, these two unit configurations are undoubtedly the core devices of the Strike Freedom Gundam. Its status is probably similar to the Godhead of the Gods. It's the hardest to get, and the most powerful part. As for other weapons, armor and other configurations, it is relatively simple. As that's so, Franky's eyes started to light up. These devices, the name alone has begun to make his mouth water. Even in his heart, he had subconsciously determined that he would choose this template. The main reason is that he can't help but have fantasies, fantasizing that his body can be transformed into such a powerful appearance. In a sense, this may be the most perfect form of mecha. Then, let's get started. Lu Chen snapped his fingers. Snapped. With the snap of his fingers, the scene in the arena suddenly came to life. Roar. A behemoth suddenly descended into the field out of thin air. A huge shadow was cast, covering a large area. It was a huge flying dragon with 3 heads. The tail alone was more than 10 meters long, and it was full of sharp barbs. Sharp teeth, thick skin, and a pair of dragon eyes full of scarlet blood. A pair of dark dragon wings spread out behind it, as if covering the sky and the sun. As soon as he appeared on the stage, an extremely wild and violent atmosphere permeated. As if this was a terrifying beast that was slaughtered from ancient times. A dull roar resounded suddenly. Suddenly, golden particles of light condensed on Gundam's body. The next moment, its eyes lit up with a faint golden light. This is the Peugeot where the body has been activated. Roar. The 3-headed flying dragon is obviously not afraid of the iron lump opposite. Such a breathless dead creature. No matter how strong the energy fluctuations on its body are, the threat it brings will not be stronger than the living enemy after all. Call. The dragon wings fluttered, and the 3-headed flying dragon seemed to be transformed into a vague black shadow, passing through the air and swept toward the opposite body. At this moment, a heavy mechanical sound resounded in Gundam's body. The next generation unlimited nuclear-driven assault module complex has been activated, the Super Dragoon system has been activated, and the automatic control mode is turned on. 35. In the next second, the two laser swords were raised by the Strike Freedom and slashed towards the three-headed flying dragon. Dang. Hey. The dragon's claws rubbed the armor on the surface of the body, causing sparks. Two lightsabers were inserted into the flank of the dragon. Wow. The three-headed flying dragon let out a loud roar and flew back into the sky with strong inertia. Two lightsabers pulled a long wound on his flank. However, there was no blood gushing out of the wound, because its powerful muscle force abruptly twisted the wound until it was closed. Super Sasori Tiger, Beam Saber, Chen explained in the audience. It's a weapon made of high-energy beams condensed. The crowd listened with longing. In the field, the Assault Freedom suddenly put away its lightsaber, and two black-gray rifles larger than infantry cannons were set up. A large number of light particles condensed at the muzzle. The entire huge gun body has a blue shimmer. Saw. The huge beam pierced the sky and swept towards the three-headed flying dragon in midair. There was even a charred smell in the air. Serious multifunctional combined high-energy beam rifle, Chen continued, it is a conventional weapon for storming the Liberty. 55. Wow. The three flying dragons screamed, the heads on both sides suddenly opened the dragon's mouth, and the dark energy quickly condensed. Its energy intensity is extremely high, and it even carries some kind of curse power. Boom. Two jet black energy columns smashed downward and collided with the beam in the air. A burst of air waves continued to push away all around. The dust on the ground was rolled up by this huge residual power. At this time, the dull roar sounded again. 8 blue wings of light gradually light up in the dust. Assault Freedom slowly rose from the ground, and waves of terrifying energy fluctuations spread out from its body. The two lightsabers reappeared in its hands. Boom. The explosion of gas resounded throughout the arena. The Assault Freedom cut through the sky at a terrifying speed, heading towards the three-headed flying dragon in the distance. Roar. Seeing this, the eyes of the three-headed flying dragon were even more fierce, without any sign of flinching, and rushed straight towards the face. When. Dense sparks flickered in the air. Almost all of Phylong's body is a weapon. Such beasts undoubtedly exerted their lethal power in everything they possessed. From sharp teeth to fangs, and even the tail dragging behind him, they all became lethal weapons. On the body surface of the Assault Freedom, a layer of beam stand shield was lit up, forcibly endured these heavy blows. But even so, under the great power of the three-headed flying dragon, the shield began to have fissures. In return, the two lightsabers in its hands also cut a lot of wounds on Phylong's body. Chapter 115. Terrorist Regeneration Ability. Brilliant Transmitter. Stargazer. Invincible Firepower System. Roar. A deafening roar resounded in the sky. The posture of the three-headed flying dragon is extremely violent. A large amount of dark energy erupted continuously. It was a savage and cursed power. Jung. The Assault Freedom and the huge body of the flying dragon crossed. Suddenly, the lightsaber swiped across the head on the left side of the flying dragon, and a large amount of blood flew into the sky. A huge dragon head, with its eyes tightly closed, fell from the air to the ground. Bam! A large pit was smashed out, and the smoke was rolled up. The weight of this head alone is equivalent to a small meteorite, which shows how huge the size and body density of this flying dragon is. Roar. An angry roar echoed in the sky. Obviously, this blow made the three-headed flying dragon fall into a state of madness. Sure enough, Gundam, so strong, Franky's eyes lit up in the audience. Just the few weapons displayed so far made his heart beat faster. And it's not just the longing for this powerful destructive power. Franky is actually more interested in how these weapon systems work. He couldn't help but want to get his hands on it and study it. The others on the side also let out a sigh of relief. So, it should be over soon, right? Even one head was chopped off, even if it was a beast with 3 heads. Should be hit hard too, right? Just when they thought so. In the sky, the three-headed flying dragon suddenly let out a long groan. Che Lala, a wisp of jet black energy emerged from its left neck. The muscles of the neck are constantly twisting, and a granulation grows rapidly from it. In just a few breaths, a brand new faucet grows out of thin air. Roar. 35. The new dragon head screamed again. Compared to the other 2 heads next to it, this head should appear younger and more immature, and it should be smaller in size. But even so, this terrifying regeneration ability made everyone in the audience stunned. Nami's expression froze directly. This has grown again. Usopp even stared out his eyes. What kind of monster is this? Huh. Sanji's eyes trembled and he let out a breath of smoke. The head fell off. Can it grow back? As he said that, he also took a special look at the dragon head that had a big hole on the ground of the arena. Obviously, this is very pure regeneration. Unlike those false decapitations of those with Logia abilities. And the 3-headed flying dragon was really cut off with a head, which completely demonstrated its terrifying regeneration ability. Aside, Zoro also put his hand on the hilt of the knife with some solemnity. This kind of enemy is the most troublesome. They usually fight various enemies in the trial dojo. There are, of course, all kinds of animals. And like this 3-headed flying dragon, the beast with extremely strong vitality is the most troublesome enemy. Because they're like little guys from immune to death. No matter how terrifying the injury suffered, it was harmless to this type of beast. According to a popular saying, it's just a mortal wound, a trivial matter. One time, in particular, Zoro's opponent was a black mud monster from the otherworld. That time he cut at least tens of thousands of knives, and before he was about to die of exhaustion, he finally cut off the opponent. Since that time, Zoro has been very impressed by such powerful monsters. Saw. The sound of breaking the air constantly resounded in the sky above the arena. The 8 blue wings of light generated extremely terrifying power, and bursts of sonic booms were pushed away in the air. The fuselage of the Assault Liberty flickered in the air, a visual illusion created by the speed of the ultimate, and its effect was close to a short-range teleport. Obviously, at this terrifying speed, even a 3-headed flying dragon could hardly capture the opponent's movement trajectory. It can only rely on its own fierce beast-fighting instinct to forcibly predict the opponent's attack. The slashes of the lightsaber bloomed on its huge body. Due to too many wounds, even with the terrifying regeneration ability of the 3-headed flying dragon, it cannot completely heal in a short period of time. Therefore, the dragon's blood was continuously sprinkled in the air. At this time, the Assault Freedom was like a dancer in the sky. With a gorgeous gesture, dipped in the blood of the flying dragon, he painted a mad and demonic picture in the air. Boom! Suddenly, the 3-headed flying dragon's prediction finally succeeded. A dragon claw firmly grabbed the outer shell of the Assault Liberty's armor, rubbing a series of sparks. Roar! There seemed to be a tinge of excitement in the furious roar. After being disturbed by this nasty bug for a long time, this time it will make the other party pay the price completely. The main head, which is located in the middle of the 3 heads, suddenly opened the dragon's mouth. A black to ultimate energy group formed in its mouth, and its shape was like a black hole, and any incoming light beams were completely absorbed. Dark dragon breath. At the same time, the Assault Liberty has stretched its beam shield. And, in its chest cavity, a hidden large gun barrel stretched out. Buzz. A large number of light particles converged on the muzzle, forming a dazzling golden light. For a time, terrifying energy fluctuations filled the sky. Both sides of the battle have obviously launched their big moves. This kind of terrifying fluctuation, even if it is far away, makes people feel that they are about to encounter extinction. MGX-2235 Agnifier Complex Phase Beam Cannon, Chen's commentary sounded in the audience. Using the super advanced deuterium nucleus in the body of the Strike Freedom as the energy source, its power is the strongest of all weapons. 35. Yes, the strongest. This beam cannon with core energy as its power source is the most terrifying weapon to strike freedom. The only downside is where it's installed. As a result, it can only shoot towards the front, and many times it cannot accurately lock on the enemy. But the current situation is different. It was directly caught by the 3-headed flying dragon, and there was a frontal collision between the two. In this case, neither side intends to back down. Hearing what Chen said, the surrounding Franky and others all opened their eyes and stared at the sky intently. Boom. It was like thunder on the ground, and like a nuclear explosion. 2 energy beams, one gold and one black, collided abruptly in the sky. The Assault Freedom and the 3-headed flying dragon were propelled by terrifying energy and flew backwards to both sides. At the center point of the collision of energy on both sides, the space seemed to collapse, and cracks spread across the sky. In the end, the 2 terrifying energies blended together and rose toward the sky. In the air, layers of energy ripples continued to ripple, and cracks appeared on the ground of the arena. A terrifying remnant enveloped the entire arena. Even everyone in the audience could feel the strong wind blowing towards them. 0 katakana middle dot ask for flowers. Sigh. One after another, the sound of sucking cold air resounded around. Everyone stared blankly at this scene, and their brains were shocked to a blank. The impact of this kind of terrifying power is really too shocking. In other words, no one is confident enough to survive such an attack. This kind of terrifying power, even if it only touches its edge, I am afraid it can directly annihilate people into flying ash. At this time, in the thick smoke, a dazzling blue light flashed by. 8 wings of light attached to the big steel wings set off the Assault Freedom like a god of war. The 2 purple-red lightsabers were combined into one, like a light particle spear. A blue halo is formed around the body of the Assault Freedom. This is a variant application of the glorious transmitter system, named Stargazer. Its effect is powerful enough to interfere with the structure of space. Therefore, it has terrible functions such as transmitting energy, receiving energy, sensing body movements, twisting bent light beams, etc. Obviously, in this round of big moves, the 3-headed flying dragon will not recover for a while. However, the Assault Freedom, which has an infinite energy source provided by the super advanced deuterium system, does not have any stiff time. 0.0. Boom. A terrifying explosion resounded in the field. Blue light and shadow passed through the huge body of the 3-headed flying dragon. Fast enough to bring afterimages. At the same time, a large number of blood flowers bloomed in the air. Wow. In the screaming sound, the 2 side heads of the 3 flying dragons all flew upside down, and the blood column shot into the sky. The remaining main head was also directly pierced by a purple-red light gun. Although it could not be cut off, the light gun was firmly embedded in it. The destructive energy light particles forcibly suppressed the terrifying regeneration ability of the 3-headed flying dragon. Immediately afterwards, the Assault Liberty waved its arms. On both sides of its waist, there is a railgun extending out. MMIM-15E, Sailfish 3, electromagnetic railgun, Lu Chen said in the audience. It's over. 35. This is the inevitable ending. The three-headed flying dragon, which had already been severely injured, was hit by 2 electromagnetic railguns under such violence. His voice just fell. Boom, boom. The 2 railguns were already firing simultaneously. The terrifying heat of the beam carrier, which has gathered a lot of energy, spins and flies out, piercing the torso of the three-headed flying dragon directly. Like a hot knife cutting butter, the entire torso of the three-legged dragon was melted and destroyed. Wow. In the sound of lamentation, the last main head gradually turned into fly ash and annihilated under the beam of light. In the face of a terrifying attack that can kill with a single blow, no matter how strong the regeneration ability is, it will become a display. Population 95. With the snap of fingers, the picture in the arena suddenly froze. In midair, 8 blue wings of light unfolded, and the Assault Freedom performed its most gorgeous exit performance. In the audience, Lu Chen turned to look at Franky. Well, I don't seem to have to ask you how you feel. After all, there was a frenzy in Franky's eyes at this point. Just like those devout believers, one day they saw the gods they believed in with their own eyes. Chapter 116 Genos is coming. Absolute fire suppression, 6 cores. Spiral burning gun. Franky's reaction is actually quite normal. Not to mention him, even Luffy, Usopp and others next to him were also full of longing. Everyone wants to drive such a mecha to fight in the blue sky. The roar of the mechanical engine can attract everyone's attention. The 8 big blue steel wings on the back and the glazing wings unfold, it can be said to be cool to ultimate. Not to mention the powerful weapon system, no one can refuse just such a fuselage. What's more, Franky himself is a transformative person. He knew very well how terrifying the technological content contained in the unit configuration of the Strike Freedom Gundam. I've made sure, Franky said, just choose it and strike the Freedom Gundam. This tone is very firm. It's like a confession between a couple in love. I love you, and I don't want you to marry. Lu Chen turned his head and glanced at him with a meaningful expression. Are you sure? Of course. Franky's mouth grinned with confidence. What I said, there is no reason to take it back. Really? Lu Chen smiled noncommittally. On the other hand, Usopp echoed excitedly. Of course. It's too handsome. Those beam cannons, 020, just look amazing. Luffy also laughed and said, I like those 8 big blue wings, it's very cool. Even Zoro said with a knife in his arms. The 2 lightsabers, no, should be said to be beam saber named Super Sasori Tiger. I am also very interested. 99. That thing, purely made of beam particles condensed, has a very exaggerated destructive power. The only problem is that the lightsaber doesn't have a physical body and can't be used to block or parry someone's attack. But despite this, it still provides a lot of reference value for Zoro to develop moves. Well, Nami shrugged not far away. Anyway, let's read the remaining 3 templates first. She was not surprised by this situation. In fact, which of the strong men that can appear in this arena has the power to not make people excited? After reading the first template, I made up my mind, but when I saw the back, everyone started to change their minds or swayed. Okay, Franky spread his hands indifferently. I've already identified it anyway. Without saying a word, Lu Chen snapped his fingers calmly. Snapped. In the snap of fingers, the screen of the entire arena was reset. The Assault Freedom Gundam with 8 light wings in the sky also disappeared from the sight of everyone. Immediately afterwards, a new figure appeared out of thin air in the arena. It is different from the previous Gundam, which is 18.88 meters high. This time, it is obviously the height of a normal person, or is that a human? He has short blonde hair and a handsome face. He was also wearing an ordinary black t-shirt and trousers. But except for the face, the whole body is made of metal alloy. Even the exposed pale golden eyes were faintly glowing with metallic luster, and there was a shimmer in the pupils. That is a pair of eyes, it is clearly a pair of ultra-high-speed motion capture searchers. This is. Franky's eyes straightened for the first time, and his mouth opened slightly. As a reformer, he recognized the identity of the other party at a glance, also a reformer. If the previous Strike Freedom Gundam is a mecha that needs to be controlled by humans, it is 90% compatible with him. Then this pure transformed man in front of him might have a 100% affinity with him. That's right, he's a transformed person. Lu Chen on the side gave a positive answer. Franky's face froze, and he said stubbornly, HMPH, even if it is to transform people, it may not be comparable to the attack on the Freedom Gundam. I will not change my decision. That's your business. Lu Chen smiled slightly. I'm only responsible for showing you the ability of the other party. As for the choice, he will not interfere in any choice. Genos, Lu Chen introduced calmly. From the world of One Punch, the S-Pole hero of the Hero Association, is a transformative person with a very terrifying firepower system. Wait, Luffy said suddenly. One Punch world. That's Saitama world. He remembered the 10 level 10 opponents he challenged when he first challenged in the trial dojo. Those bald-headed men in capes, weird clothes, and a pair of dead fish eyes. When Lu Chen introduced them later, he mentioned that they were from the One Punch world. It's also because there is no suspense in the first death. So Luffy miraculously remembered each other's name. That's right, Lu Chen said with a smile. Genos is from the One Punch world, and he is also Saitama's apprentice. Apprentice. Nami blinked and looked at the figure in the arena. a man who used his fists actually handed over an apprentice of transforming people. Could it be that the bald head is also strong in technology? No, Lu Chen shrugged. Genos learned from Saitama not technology, but spiritual strength. To be precise, Genos himself wanted to learn about Saitama's unreasonable power. But in the end, I found that I couldn't learn it, and I gradually changed my goals. Mind. Luffy narrowed his eyes. What is that? Everyone was speechless and covered their faces. They are all too familiar with the temperament of their own captain. Lu Chen ignored it, turned his head to look at Franky, and said with a smile, Genos has 6 cores, and the firepower system installed on his body is extremely powerful, with overwhelmingly powerful firepower. Yes, yes. Franky raised his chin, looking uninterested. Then, let's get started. Lu Chen snapped his fingers. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the stagnant time in the arena began to pass normally. Roar. 35. In the roar full of violence and destruction, a behemoth suddenly descended. A pair of pitch-black giant dragon wings spread out, casting shadows, covering a large area of the arena. A wild and primitive vicious beast aura began to permeate. The 3 huge dragon heads are all ferocious, with sharp claws and sharp teeth, and long barbed tails. Suddenly, Genos on the opposite side rolled his eyeballs wildly, and after a moment he locked onto the 3-headed flying dragon in the sky. Open black lens bracket warning, high-risk energy lifeform detected, close black lens bracket. Genos frowned slightly. Ferocious beast, flying dragon. His scanning system began to detect each other's data immediately. And came to a conclusion in seconds. A beast with high-risk energy and a powerful body. Genos' body was slightly lowered, and his expression was extremely indifferent. Take me as a prey. Roar. The big wings were in the air, and the 3-headed flying dragon flew down, and the sharp claws had dark cursed energy attached. Here it is. Nien Genos' eyes froze suddenly. Boom. A terrifying explosion of gas exploded. Zero. Under his feet, hot flames erupted violently, and huge kinetic energy was generated. In the next instant, Genos' figure had disappeared, leaving only a string of weak arc flashes in place. He appeared in the sky above the flying dragon at a terrifying speed, as if teleporting, folded his hands and aimed in the direction of the flying dragon. Burning cannons. The armor on both hands suddenly unfolded, forming a muzzle, in which crimson rays of light converged. Boom. 35. The flame-like beam of light flew downward with terrifying kinetic energy and thermal energy. The 3-headed flying dragon was hit by this cannon before it had time to dodge, and the fire burst into the sky. A large amount of smoke and dust swept up, obscuring the sight. Roar. Accompanied by a violent roar, the 3-headed flying dragon suddenly spread its wings and flew out of the smoke and dust, and swept towards the silhouette above at a faster speed. Genos didn't change his face, raised his fists, and bursts of electricity rushed around him. Zilala. The arc formed a snake-like shape and wrapped around his fists. One person and one dragon meet in midair, and the dragon claws and the steel fists collide continuously, causing a series of sparks. What's interesting is that every time a punch is punched, a large amount of strong voltage current will erode into Phylong's body. Make it scream continuously. Lightning core, Lu Chen explained in the audience. One of the 6 cores of Genos, its effect is to generate a large amount of current attack, and it will have a strong electric shock effect. Floating core is also one of the 6 cores, and its effect is to make him float. The 6 cores of Genos are undoubtedly equivalent to the super advanced deuterium nucleus on the Strike Freedom Gundam. It is the core of its energy, which provides a huge amount of energy for the body's actions. However, the difference is that the function of super advanced deuteron is only to provide power energy. In addition to providing energy, Genos' core also has different effects. It can be said that each core is a combination of energy plus some kind of unit device. The people around listened and nodded thoughtfully. So it is. 99. Wow. At this moment, a scream sounded, and the 2 figures 1.3 in the field suddenly separated and flew out of each other upside down. The 3 flying dragons flew high into the sky, and the 2 heads on the left and right began to open their mouths to gather energy. Obviously, it doesn't want to engage in close combat with the opponent. Excessive body size will bring absolute strength advantages. But in the face of such a highly agile enemy, he will undoubtedly make himself a living target. In particular, the opponent's attack was accompanied by a strong current. Even with the powerful physical body of the 3-headed flying dragon, it was a little unbearable to be electrocuted. Energy bombardment. 99. Genos landed, and a pair of scanning eyes locked each other's position. I've dealt with a weirdo like you a lot. As he spoke, his hands were raised, revealing a huge muzzle. For a time, a huge energy that was far more exaggerated than before gathered at the muzzle. Spiral burning cannon. A huge column of flames rose into the sky. It collided with the jet black energy column falling from the sky. Layers of air waves continued to push away in all directions, and the ground began to crack every inch. Genos' pupils gleamed brightly. Increase the firepower, the super spiral burning cannon. Chapter 117 God. How many divisions does he have? All human fears stem from insufficient firepower. Boom. In the arena, a terrifying pillar of fire with a diameter of more than 10 meters spiraled into the sky. The jet black energy column that could have been able to compete was suddenly pushed back at an extremely fast speed. The vertical pupils of the 3-headed dragon's eyes shrank fiercely. God knows why the ant-sized little thing on the opposite side has such terrifying firepower. In an emergency, it was too late for the main head of the 3-headed dragon to act. At the critical moment, the huge wings behind it suddenly closed, and the dark energy attached to it, forming a tight shield that water could not get in. Boom! A loud noise came out, and the huge pillar of fire hit the body of the flying dragon. For a time, the fire lit up the sky, and the dazzling light was like the sun falling, making people subconsciously look away. A circle of air waves pushed away in all directions. The terrifying energy fluctuation even spread to the ground, and the ground beneath Gino's feet collapsed directly, forming a big pit. In the air, gray cotton-like objects fell, carrying unburned flames on them. This scene is like an apocalyptic scene of the flames falling from the sky to destroy the world. It was not until the fire light weakened that everyone could see the situation of the flying dragon in the sky. The large wings that it used as a shield were tattered and full of large holes that had been scorched through. There was even a cloud of flame embers that continued to burn. Even if the dark energy is constantly pouring in, it is difficult to erase it in a short period of time. And the injury of the flying dragon itself is harmless under the exaggerated regeneration ability. Jiao thermonuclear, Chen explained aloud in the audience. The effect is similar to lightning core, which will add O2 flame to Gino's attack. 99. But the difference is that the firepower of this core is extremely exaggerated. It can be regarded as the second largest core of Gino's. Even this cannon has not fully exerted its power. Everyone else around them widened their eyes. Usopp pointed at the scene in the field with slightly trembling fingers. This is still not fully developed. No matter how you look at it, the effect of the blow just now was terrifying. Franky's face was beginning to get complicated. This firepower is not at its limit yet. 35. Not bad, Chen nodded calmly. You know, Gino's firepower is already very exaggerated in his initial form. At the time, he even had only one core. Gino's on the field now is in complete form. After many transformations such as ARMSMODE form, G4 form, turbo form, extreme firepower equipment and so on. Especially the terrifying core at the end, even let him defeat a whole 3 dragon-level machine gods alone. In this state, destroying a city with one shot would be nothing but leisurely. The exaggeration of its firepower has reached a certain incredible level. It's amazing. Usopp's Adam's apple surged, and for a while, he had a bigger vision than he had seen Gundam before. It's the same sentence. All the fears of human beings come from the lack of firepower. As long as you have enough firepower, even God will blow you into ashes. God, how many teachers does he have? Therefore, there are always humans who will subconsciously pursue more powerful firepower. And just right, the figure in the arena at this time represents the word, firepower, itself. Roar. A thunderous roar resounded through the sky. The 3-headed flying dragon flapped its large wings that were still burning with embers of flame, and flew down toward the ground. The terrifying speed coupled with the huge weight brings unstoppable terrifying power. As if anything blocking the front will be smashed into powder. However, Gino stood still and looked calm. Call. A white mist slowly spit out from his mouth. The surrounding ground actually started to freeze slightly. At the same time, Gino's made a move with both hands. Kakaka. The ground in the entire surrounding area began to tremble slightly. The earth and stones were continuously broken open, and a large amount of iron sand rushed out, forming a thick iron wall in the air. In the audience, Nami's eyes widened suddenly. Magnetic force. She was all too familiar with this power. After all, there is such an item in the Masaka Makoto ability that she is currently acquiring. Moreover, when Masaka Makoto fought in the arena, he also showed such a trick to block the bombardment of the enemy's laser cannons. Boom. 35. A deafening dull sound echoed in the arena. The 3-headed flying dragon collided with the iron wall with terrifying kinetic energy. Layers of air waves pushed away towards the surroundings, rolling up a lot of smoke and dust. With its landing spot as the center, the cracks on the ground spread like spider webs. This time, it was like a comet falling, and the impact was so great that even the auditorium in the distance could feel the ground shaking. The 3-headed flying dragon directly used his huge body as a weapon. If you change to a vicious beast, if you dare to play like this, you will definitely hit yourself into minced meat at the first time. But the 3-headed flying dragon is different, its body is extremely hard. Coupled with that terrifying recovery ability, even if he fell like this, he wouldn't be greatly affected. It can even use the huge impact force of that moment to put out the flames burning on the dragon wings. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Roar. The huge heads of the 3 flying dragons suddenly pierced through the crumbling iron wall and bit their prey. At this moment, Gino suddenly sighed. Ha-1-1. White mist rose up. Layers of frost began to form on the ground and spread rapidly. In just a few breaths, a thick layer of ice formed on the surface of the 3-headed flying dragon. The whole flying dragon instantly turned into a big ice cube. Super magnetic core, Chen said in the audience. The effect is that it can release a strong magnetic force and attract surrounding metal objects to form weapons, etc. There is also freeze core. Its effect is similar to the previous lightning core and coke heat core, both of which will provide energy with elemental power, which can quickly freeze the enemy. Hearing his voice, everyone around them reacted from their daze. Franky paused for a moment before asking with difficulty. Lightning core, pyrothermal core, freezing core, supermagnetic core, floating core, you said before. He has 6 cores. That's right, Chen's expression remained unchanged. Gino's has 6 cores, and the strongest core is not used. Hiss. Everyone leaned back a little, obviously surprised by this fact. After all, Just the 5 cores that have been revealed are already scary enough. It's hard to imagine how terrifying the power of the transforming man in the field will be when the 6 cores are fully activated. Seeing this, Lu Chen's mouth evoked an interesting smile. By the way, the power of the 6th core will be stronger than the previous 5 combined. 35. The voice fell. For a while, the audience fell into an eerie silence. In other words, everyone looked like they wanted to say something, but they couldn't open their mouths. Finally, Usopp, who was best at ranting, was the first to speak. What a joke, the 6th core is stronger than the previous 5 combined. Nami also lost his voice. Doesn't that mean that this guy hasn't done his best yet? Right now, in the arena, kakaka, a crackling sound kept ringing. There are cracks spreading rapidly on the solid ice on the surface of the 3-headed flying dragon. Apparently, the ice couldn't hold it for long. That terrifying brute force like an ancient giant beast, coupled with its exaggeratedly powerful physique, cannot be solved by freezing. But Genos didn't care about that either. He took a deep breath and tore off the black t-shirt on his upper body, revealing the energy muzzle in the center of his chest. Zillala, a blue electric snake surged up from his body. Genos' eyes suddenly lit up with a dazzling golden light. Obviously, a great degree of power output was already turned on. A large amount of current condensed on the energy muzzle at his chest, and finally even formed a near liquid thunder slurry. Genos' body jerked back, as if he was under some kind of huge recoil. Sky-piercing thunder cannon. Roar. A huge golden brontosaurus roared O2O and rushed out from the muzzle. The dazzling golden light even illuminated the entire arena for a while. The huge golden thunder dragon pierced through the ice cube of the 3-headed flying dragon in an instant like a sharp blade piercing through paper. In the end, it smashed straight onto the wall below the auditorium on the edge of the arena. Boom. The billowing smoke swept up. There was still the scorching hot breath of the thunder dragon passing in the air. The fluctuation caused by this blow is not as big as the previous ultra-spiral burning cannon. But in terms of power, penetration, etc., it is several times stronger. It is a big move that can only be displayed by fully turning on the power of the entire lightning core. At this moment, the eyes of everyone in the audience were all staring at the field. When the smoke gradually dissipated, the huge body of the 3-headed flying dragon came into view. At this time, its state can already be described as dilapidated. It looks like a rag doll that has been torn apart from the inside out. Especially in the chest and abdomen, a large black hole with a diameter of several meters is particularly eye-catching. That was the location that was pierced by the thunder dragon hole just now. Yeah, 99. In the screaming sound, the 3-headed flying dragon still struggled to flutter with its broken wings. At the edge of the hole in the chest and abdomen, a piece of granulation began to grow tenaciously. Apparently, it won't be long before his wounds heal. What a twisted life force. Genos' tone remained unchanged, but his gaze towards the giant beast also became serious. I have learned enough caution from Saitama teacher for so long, this time, I will not be careless. Saying that, he opened his arms with a serious expression. Long Ming core open. Boom. A tide of energy that far surpassed the previous one suddenly set off. Around him, a large number of electric snakes jumped in the air. Genos' hair stood on end, as if he had transformed into a Super Saiyan. The wisps of steam rose up. This is the performance that the power of the body has been expanded to the maximum. Chapter 118. Long Ming Nuclear. Subvert the cognition of firepower. The essence of human beings is really fragrant. Dragon Singing Core, Lu Chen's voice rang in the ears of everyone in the audience. This is the last core of Genos, and the most powerful core. 99. This core, in Lu Chen's view, can be called overload mode. In short, after turning on the power of Dragon Singing Core, Genos' body power will reach an unprecedented peak. Its strength, speed, firepower, etc., all the values will be changed by leaps and bounds. Its strength is great, and it is known by comparison. Genos once used Dragon Singing Core to defeat 3 dragon-level machine gods unilaterally, and then defeated the combination of 3 dragon-level machine gods by himself again. But before possessing the Dragon Singing Core, he had never won against a dragon-level enemy alone. The hero can even knock him out with one move. The huge difference in combat power between the front and the back is astounding. This is his real strength. Franky's Adam's apple surging on the side, a little choked. The terrifying aura of that figure in the field could be clearly felt even from a distance. It was like a nuclear bomb waiting to be fired. As long as it is activated, the follow-up will inevitably be a shocking blow. At this moment, Franky suddenly remembered what he had said before. Franky, there is no reason to take back what I say. Dreams. Thinking about it, he suddenly had the urge to give himself a big mouth. Let you talk shit, let you talk shit. Cough. Franky coughed lightly and put a fist on his chin. Well, it's really powerful. Lu Chen next to him glanced at him and said nothing. Sure enough, the essence of human beings is still really fragrant. This is the same even when transforming people. But other people's concerns are different. Luffy's eyes light up slightly. Wow, so cool. The wisps of electricity danced in the air, and a short blonde hair stood upright. As the steam rose, Genos' appearance was slightly blurred. This form is very similar to the 10th level opponent, Super Saiyan, that they had challenged in the trial dojo. For a long time, Luffy felt that this form was very cool and was extremely yearning. Zoro frowned. His focus was obviously different from Luffy's, very strong. Boom. Suddenly, there was a loud noise in the arena. The ground suddenly collapsed into a big hole. Geno's figure disappeared directly from the spot. The whole person rose from the ground and swept toward the three-headed flying dragon in the air at a terrifying speed that the naked eye couldn't catch. Even though Phylong's vicious beast instinct had already given a warning, its reaction nerves couldn't keep up. A heavy kick landed directly on its main head. Crack. An eerie sound of bone cracking sounded. Saw. In the sound of breaking the air, the three-headed flying dragon turned into a straight black line and sank into the ground. Boom. There was a wave like ups and downs on the ground, which was the effect of being hit by a huge kinetic energy. AFL. Even with the exaggerated vitality of the three-headed flying dragon, the roar at this time inevitably carried a sense of weakness. The heavy damage suffered in an instant directly exceeded the threshold of recovery ability. In the sky, Genos did not stop. His arms stretched forward, folded in one place, and all the armor was deployed. Crack knock. The steel twisted and the sound sounded, and in a few breaths, a moving fort was formed. The dazzling fire light gathered at the muzzle, and the source was endless, and finally even formed an exaggerated light spot like the sun shining on Madara. Geno's eyes narrowed slightly, and he slowly spit out a high-temperature white mist of steam. Really spiral burning cannon. Boom. A huge spiral of fire flared around and rushed out of the muzzle. Ultimate's dazzling light even completely illuminates the entire arena, like a sun falling. The sun seemed to be popular, smashed to the ground quickly, and submerged in it like a three-headed flying dragon. There was no sound or movement at first, like the tranquility on the eve of a storm. After 0.5 seconds, a deafening explosion began to swept up. The ground in the center of the entire arena was lifted up by a terrifying impact. The fire soared into the sky, and abruptly formed a pillar of fire on the ground, resembling the scene of a volcanic eruption. Roar. The unwilling dragon roar sounded. Under the shock of terrifying high temperature and flames, even the distorted regeneration ability of the three-headed flying dragon is powerless to revolving heaven. In the end, the huge dragon body gradually turned into fly ash and annihilated. Snapped. With the snap of his fingers, the picture in the arena fell into a stagnation. At this time, the audience was silent, and no one spoke. To be precise, everyone was staring blankly at the devastating scene in the arena. Geno's shot almost refreshed their understanding of the word firepower. If it weren't for the invincible area restriction of the auditorium, I'm afraid everyone would turn into ashes under that cannon. Cough. Chen coughed lightly, reminding them, this battle is over. Immediately, everyone came back to their senses. The end. It's over. Chopper said in a dazed voice. That's right, it's over. Sanji on the side spit out the burned-out cigarette, took out a new one, and lit it. His hand holding the lighter trembled slightly. This guy is called Geno's. What? 55. Well, Luffy's rare expression became more serious, as expected of someone from the same world as that. Saitama, it's really cool. Bam. With one punch, Luffy fell to the ground. Nami withdrew his fist with black lines on his face. What's cool or not, that's not the point, can you be normal? Zoro on the side was holding a long knife with a solemn expression. That kind of terrifying firepower can actually be accommodated by such a small body. The previous Gundam, although also has a strong firepower and power. But its size itself is not small, with a height of 18.88 meters, which is almost the height of a six-story building. Under this size, it is understandable how much energy, weapons, etc. are stuffed. But this transformed man in front of him is clearly a template for ordinary human beings. Visually it will never exceed 2 meters in height. But it is such a transformed man, whose built-in energy, firepower system, etc., is so powerful that it is shocking. It's hard to imagine how so many systems fit into such a large body. There are a full 6 cores. Even the Strike Freedom Gundam has only 1 core. At this time, Chen turned to look at Franky. How does it feel? It feels. Franky's face froze for a moment. He is a transformed person after all, and his affinity with me should be quite high. That's it. Chen's expression was meaningful, although he didn't smile, it made Franky feel uncomfortable all over. Finally, he couldn't bear it any longer, and said righteously, I think the template of Geno's may be more suitable for me. For a time, everyone around him cast a look of, as expected. That sentence, the essence of human beings is true fragrance. This time, don't you decide to choose this first. Usopp on the side teased with a smirk. Franky coughed lightly. I'd better read it first, in case there is something more suitable for me later. At this time, Chen's face turned slightly positive. All in all, I'm only responsible for showing you these templates. As for who to choose, you still have to come by yourself. Of course, compared to Strike Freedom Gundam, Geno's does fit you better. After all, the configuration of Gundam's body can take up a lot of space. Even if you get it, you have to work hard to transform it. And Geno's, as a normal-sized transformed man, his core configuration can even be used on Franky's body. Another, Gundam itself is actually just a mecha, which needs to be controlled by people. Geno's transformation route is the same as Franky's. They all mechanize the body, but retain the brain consciousness for manipulation. The compatibility of the two is not very high. Franky also nodded with approval. I'm very interested in his 6 cores. 9. Moreover, this interest is not only to improve their own combat power. is a research desire. He was really curious about how amazing the structure of the 6 cores was. Each core has energy and a special utility. Open black lens bracket lightning core close black lens bracket can provide lightning ability. Open black lens bracket frozen core close black lens bracket can provide freezing ability. Open black lens bracket pyrocore close black lens bracket can provide fire ability. Floating core can make the body float in the air. Super magnetic core allows the body to control the magnetic force. Yes. As for the final dragon singing core, it can even make the body reach a terrifying state of exceeding limits. The acquisition of any core can make Franky, who is also a transforming person, sharply increase the combat power. Moreover, if he studies it thoroughly, maybe he can create cores like giant force core, quick core, space core, and so on. Isn't each core equivalent to the ability of a devil fruit? Thinking about it this way, the development potential of these cores is simply exaggerated. Maybe, in the future, he can become a transformation person with countless abilities of the master. Thinking of this, Franky even felt that his mentality was a little floating. Then let's go to the next one. Chen smiled and snapped his fingers. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, all the screens in the arena were reset. At the same time, a new figure descended into the field. Everyone in the audience couldn't help but widen their eyes. This is. If they were talking about Genos before, they could still understand. This newly appeared, undoubtedly made everyone look a little dazed. Because, it's a little lowly. It's called Hubby Dora. Chapter 119 Machine Guy Hubby Dora. Changed the fate of an entire world. A splendid legend. Its appearance resembles a 10-year-old human girl. He has long purple hair that hangs down to his calf, snow-white skin, and ruby-like eyes. He was wearing a coarse cloth cloak, which looked a bit nondescript. You can see that there are mechanical structures behind her ears and right forehead. Obviously, this is not a real human being. This is remodeling people. In the audience, Franky was the first to ask, his face full of confusion. No, Chen denied. Her name is Hubby Dora, she is a machine guy, that is, a pure robot. Machine. Franky stroked his chin thoughtfully. Well, as far as I know, pure robots are all program-driven, and strictly speaking, she shouldn't have self-awareness. 35. The technology tree of the pirate world has developed very crookedly. For example, their telephones and TVs use phone bugs and screen bugs to act. But in some respects, their technological capabilities are powerful. For example, the pacifist robot created by Vegapunk not only has the power of a violent coon bear, but also has the ability to fire a laser that can fire Kizaru. So it's not surprising that Franky, who can even transform himself, understands these things. For him, these robots are not so much living creatures as artifacts. Especially if it is still strong, it is an out-and-out war weapon. The only difference from a mecha-like Gundam is that one's behavior is controlled by humans, and the other's behavior is controlled by a set program. A normal machine guy, that's true, Chen shook his head, but she's different. Saying that, there seemed to be a flash of emotion in Chen's eyes. From that person, she got something in 020. Of course, this heart can also be called emotion. A machine guy with no heart, in a human body, Incredible obtained his own heart. Finally, also shared it with the entire machine guy species. At this point, a race that has been made as a weapon of war has all possessed a heart. It is also for this reason that the ending of the Battle of Gods was rewritten. That is to say, Franky's eyes froze slightly. This is a robot with its own consciousness. That's right, Chen nodded. This, Franky held back for a long time before saying, it's incredible. But this situation is not incomprehensible. After all, there are so many fantastic things in this world. Even a knife can eat devil fruit and have its own consciousness. What else can't happen? Hey, Sanji on the side let out a breath of smoke and said, I've listened to it for a long time, which means she's not actually a human, right? Of course, 35 Chen said as he should. Among the 4 templates I chose for Franky, there was no pure human being. Quote. Damn it. 35 Sanji's lost hands on the railing. I thought it was another cute little loli. Boom. Nami smashed him with a punch, then looked at the girl in the field and smiled. Hey, it's so cute. At least, just looking at the face, this will be a perfect girl. These are not important. Zoro, who was not far away, looked helpless. Strength is the key. Of course, he did not doubt the strength of the little loli in the field. After all, there have been countless examples of this before. For example, Tornado in a certain boxing world, Index in a certain magical world, etc., are all like this. Under the seemingly weak appearance, there is a terrifying monster strength hidden. Hubby Dora, the world from which he came is called Game World. Chen introduced. In today's world, under the rules set by the unique god, everything is determined by the outcome of the game, and war, killing, and violence are all prohibited. The people around were thoughtful. Such a world sounds like it's not bad. The game decides everything. That means, there will be no wars, killings, etc. This is a very incredible thing for the pirate world that follows the principle of the law of the jungle. Marines, pirates, civilians, nobles, celestial dragons, etc., the contradictions between them are always accompanied by blood. Everything is determined by the game. In a sense, it is also a kind of law of the jungle. It's just that the strength here is no longer the strength of the strength, but the strength of the game ability. But anyway, at least people don't have to worry that they will die suddenly one day. For example, when he fell asleep, he was suddenly affected by the battle of some strong people, and he lost his life directly. The rules of this world are not originally like this, Chen said calmly. The previous game world also had constant wars, and it was countless times more chaotic than the world we were in. 95. The gods and their creatures, using means beyond human comprehension, wantonly spread destruction. Hydrogen bombs, void zero protection, sky strike and other powerful attacks were created and used. The weaker humans linger, the mighty races go on war. 35. The sky is dyed crimson, and the earth is covered with dead ashes. When I came back to my senses, the whole world was already riddled with holes. The strong catch and fight, and the weak linger. For humans, the world is purgatory. And all of this is to capture the Star Cup, and become the only god. With the sound of Chen's words, the surroundings gradually fell into silence. Everyone unconsciously began to listen intently. And the more I listened, the more frightened I became. In fact, just imagine, can already think of. The huge war between the gods has spread to the whole world. And human beings without power are not even the pieces on the chessboard. They can only be regarded as insignificant dust. Any ACBD race has the power to easily destroy them. It is hard to imagine how the human beings in that world can survive in such cruel conditions. This situation, it's far more difficult than their current world. In the end, how did it become what it is now? Nami couldn't help asking. A world that was precarious in the battle of gods, finally turned into a world that put an end to war and violence. The one you saw is one of the reasons. Chen raised his chin in the direction of the arena. In the hands of a flugel, she survived for 251 seconds, betting everything, and awakened the hearts of the entire race of guys. You must know that the flugel is a family of war weapons specially created by the most powerful god of war among the gods. It is a god-killing race, and its purpose is to annihilate other races and even gods. And Jibril, who fought against Hugh, was the best even among the flugel. The disparity in combat power between the two sides is immeasurable. But even so, Hubby persisted until the 251st second. Let the data called heart be completely transmitted back to the machine guy. Although their long-cherished wish may not have succeeded, after all, the body of a mortal cannot touch the Star Cup. Chen said calmly, but at least, they succeeded in changing that world. For a time, when everyone looked at the little lowly in the field, there was seriousness and respect in their eyes. It is conceivable that this must be an epic legend. It is a miracle to pull an entire world from the abyss of war to peace. So, let's start, 35 said. Chen snapped his fingers. Snapped. With the snap of fingers, the originally stagnant arena scene suddenly came to life. Roar. In the fierce and violent roar, the three-headed flying dragon came out of nowhere. A pair of huge black wings seemed to cover the sky, casting a large shadow. The incomparably wild and primitive vicious beast aura began to permeate. 3 heads, 6 scarlet dragon eyes. The ferocious barbs even glowed with cold light, which made people feel horrified. This is. On the ground, Hubby raised his head and locked the behemoth in the air. Dragon essence. If it is really a dragon spirit, perhaps she can give up resistance, or even give up the idea of running away. You must know that even the flugel with the power to kill gods is only the 6th among the 16 races. And the dragon essence seed is ranked 4th. Moreover, the strength of the flugel was derived from the numerous clansmen of the entire race. As for the dragon essence species, they are usually powerful individuals acting alone. It can be said that every dragon essence has the terrifying power to destroy countless regions, and its destructive power is extremely amazing. No, it shouldn't be a dragon essence. Huobi murmured in a low voice. The energy intensity is very high, and it is inclined to the nature of the curse of darkness, but it is far from the strength of the dragon essence, and even the cub of the dragon essence is not as strong. This option can be ruled out. Finally, she raised her head. Confirmed, the enemy is a wild beast with the appearance of a dragon, and is detecting the body combat unit. Result. Can be annihilated. In an instant, Huobi's mechanical and godless eyes seem to light up. In the screaming sound, the left and right heads of the three-headed flying dragon have opened their huge mouths. A large amount of pitch-black energy gathered in an endless stream, eventually forming 2 small ultra-concentrated energy balls. Boom. The 2 jet-black energy columns were suddenly spewed out by the flying dragon and fell towards the ground. Hubby stood still and didn't move, but raised his right arm, opened his palm and shouted tenderly, "The code is open, the speed limit is violated." Blazing blue light particles permeated the air. Extremely concentrated elves are shot out in the form of particles. Normal creatures, even elves, will die instantly if touched. Che la la. The dark energy column collided with the blazing blue light particles in the sky, and was rapidly dissolved. It's like encountering the snow and ice of the scorching sun. There was no aftermath, not even the dust on the ground was rolled. Chapter 120. Pseudo Code, Yanlong Roar. The corpse storm of the filthy world. The duplication ability of the machine guy. The ablation between energy and energy is silent. 2 jet black energy columns fell from the sky, and were then directly neutralized in the blazing blue light particles. It's like positive and negative particles meet and finally combine to become neutral particles. Roar. In the sky, the 3-headed flying dragon roared angrily, obviously not wanting to see his attack come back in vain. Its huge main head drooped suddenly, and its huge mouth was wide open. The majestic and vast dark energy began to gather in a steady stream. Quantitative change leads to qualitative change. In the end, a small black hole was formed, absorbing all the light it found, making it extremely black. Boom. 35. The dark energy beam with a diameter of more than 10 meters suddenly spewed out. In the air, layers of air waves were pushed towards the surroundings. The terrifying sound of sonic booms can be heard incessantly. If the attack of the heads on both sides just now was just an appetizer. So now the main head attack is undoubtedly an excellent main course. The vastness of its energy is definitely not something that can be easily melted away by only the elf particles. On the ground, Huobi's eyes widened and he gritted his teeth slightly. Dian Kai, all sides cross. 35. In an instant, the blazing blue light particles in the sky began to scatter in all directions. Eventually a thin blue light film is formed. Even though this Zong particle light film was only less than a finger thick, its terrifying defensive power was beyond doubt. The principle is to volatilize the super-concentrated spirit that has just accelerated, that is to say, it will volatilize the power beyond physics, and it will become an offensive barrier. Kill a large number of ultra-concentrated elves and convert them into skeletons, open a blue spherical particle membrane. In short, all these elven light particles were sacrificed. In exchange, it is an incredibly powerful defense. Boom. The dark energy column more than 10 meters thick suddenly fell. The smoke and dust swept up from the sky, obscuring the sight. The terrifying residual prestige caused cracks to appear on the ground in a radius of several hundred meters centered on Hubby. This blow is obviously impossible to stop silently. Even the previous Strike Freedom Gundam was able to block this move through the beam main cannon on the chest and the three-headed flying dragon. When the smoke and dust gradually dissipated, everyone in the audience could see the situation in the arena. A thin layer of blue light film stood firmly in the air. There were also strands of black air lingering on it. Hubby stood under the blue light film, and was obviously relieved. Phew, the high-risk energy shock has disintegrated, and the crisis has been temporarily lifted. Yeah. 35. A screeching sound came. The huge body of the three-headed flying dragon cast a shadow, shrouding Huobi in it. It flew downward at a very exaggerated speed. Dark energy and sharp cold light lingered on the dragon's claws. Obviously, seeing that the energy bombardment has failed, it is necessary to directly engage in hand-to-hand combat. Hubby doesn't want to fight. A blue light loomed in Hubby's eyes. But, now I have to destroy you first. As she spoke, a huge wave of energy burst out from her body. A long purple hair began to flutter in the wind. Boom. The three-headed dragon slammed into the ground. But its attack did not succeed, because at this time Hubby had already flown into the air. She raised her right arm and aimed at the giant beast below. Kakaka. The sound of steel friction resounded. On Hubby's right arm, a bunch of weapons formed out of thin air, and finally formed a mechanical cannon. And, behind her, there are several steel wings similar to the Strike Freedom Gundam. Hubby took a light breath, his eyes dignified. Pseudo code. A huge dark magic barrier suddenly opened up in the sky. The pattern on it is extremely evil, as if it is a Pandora's box. Once touched, the world-destroying devil will be released. Obviously, this is not the ability of the mechanical side. In other words, no matter how you look at it, it is the ability of the magic side. In the audience, everyone was a little stunned for a while. Robots can also perform magic. Usopp's eyes widened, feeling that his worldview was a little shattered. In the arena and the trial dojo, he can be considered to have seen countless powerhouses from the other world. But for the first time, there are robots that can use magic. This situation is like telling you one day that the bullets fired from the gun are not because of gunpowder is power, but because there is a magic circle engraved in it, as outrageous. This is the ability of the machine guy, Chen said calmly. The machine guy can record the abilities of other races and use them in simulation. And the move she is using now comes from the power of a dragon spirit. That dragon, named Yanlong, is one of the three kings of the dragon essence, the incarnation of filth and destruction. Everyone was speechless for a while, recording the power of other races and imitating them. Isn't this ability just copying? Moreover, what is even more outrageous is that it is obviously a robot, but it can copy the ability of the magic side. Then if you have the template of the machine guy species, wouldn't it be possible to copy the ability of any strong person in the sea? For example, the three admirals of Marine, and the emperors of New World. At that time, maybe you can also experience a light speed kick, or you can directly destroy the island with a shock fruit. Chen glanced at them, as if he knew what they were thinking, and said leisurely, of course this ability is limited, and the ability to copy cannot reach the original level. 5. No matter how strong a machine guy is, it can't be perfectly replicated, and there will always be some differences. Of course, sometimes as long as it can be replicated, a little difference is of little significance. For example, the Sky Strike, that was copied by the entire guy race in the end. This kind of destructive means similar to a nuclear explosion. Can it be that because it is so little equivalent, it will not kill people? Do not make jokes. So the question is actually innocuous. At this time, in the arena, the three-headed flying dragon that had been planted on the ground seemed to have sensed the danger. Its ferocious beast instinct is constantly warning of danger. The magic circle in the sky, even it seems to smell a smell of destruction. Roar. Question mark. QG. Plus. %. In the furious roar, the three-headed flying dragon tried to fly up in vain, killing Huobi first. However, it was too late. Pseudo-code, Yanlong Roar. Hubby finally made up his mind to carry out this formula thoroughly. Originally she didn't want to use it. In the past, the machine guys had fought with Yanlong, so they copied this trick. But it was also because of that battle that Rick's hometown was destroyed. Therefore, this trick is taboo for Huobi, and he does not want to use it unless it is a last resort. Although it is the most powerful blow of all the tricks she has. Boom. 35. At the muzzle, a strong and dazzling light burst out. The magic circle in the sky seems to expand endlessly. The corpse storm of the filthy world spewed out from behind. Anything that touches will be contaminated, and will be contaminated and assimilated at an extremely fast speed, and eventually decay and die. In this regard, even the earth and rocks on the ground are no exception. Even the wind flowing in the air was contaminated with this filthy spirit corpse. Wow! The three-headed flying dragon screamed, and a pair of huge black wings slammed together, blocking itself firmly behind. Dark energy continued to emerge, trying to block this terrifying storm of spirit bones. However, nothing is immune to this. Even energy will be forced to die. The body of the three-headed flying dragon began to rot continuously, and a large number of spiritual skeletons climbed up, corroding its body. The huge black wings began to become tattered, like an umbrella with a dead umbrella and only an umbrella stand. This pair of wings, which seemed to cover the sky, was only left with a dry white skeleton. Not only dragon wing, the entire body of the three-headed flying dragon is constantly decaying and moving towards death. In addition to the main head, the other two heads were completely shriveled, as if they had been deflated balloons, they were directly drooping down. Until this corpse storm is over. 0.0. There was only a dry old dragon left in the same place. All the flesh and fur on his body seemed to have been sucked up. The whole dragon seems to have died. No, it is not so much a dragon as it is a shriveled corpse that has been stored for hundreds of years. Call. Ziobi let out a long sigh of relief, slowly put away Diankai's armament, and fell from the air. If this trick can't solve it, it will be troublesome. Her eyes locked on the huge beast opposite. During the test, the energy fluctuation of the individual life has dropped by more than 90%, and it is judged that it has entered a state of extinction. Life energy fluctuations dropped by 90%. It is impossible for any normal creature to survive. So hubby felt that the battle was over. But obviously, this three-headed flying dragon is not a normal creature. Its vitality has been tenacious to the point of distortion. Just when hubby turned around, the low roar of the flying dragon suddenly sounded behind her. What? She turned around suddenly, her eyes widened, and she looked behind in disbelief. On the mummy-like dry dragon body, the dark granulation probes began to grow wildly. This scene is extremely bizarre, and anyone who sees it will go crazy. Those granulation sprouts twisted like worms and formed new flesh in a short time. The shriveled body of the entire flying dragon is being refilled. It's like someone is pumping into a balloon. Isn't it dead yet? Huobi took a deep breath and froze when he stood there. But soon, she reacted, her hands suddenly raised and opened. Full arms, code open. Crackling. The sound of steel collisions suddenly resounded. A large number of mechanical weapons began to be generated out of thin air, and then combined together. A pair of huge steel wings slowly unfolded in midair. All the armaments belonging to the machine guy species have been revealed one by one. A ferocious icy cold gun barrel was erected and aimed at the three-headed flying dragon that was constantly recovering and regenerating on the opposite side.